Hello everybody and welcome to the first ever World ChampCar meeting. Apologies it's taken a little bit longer than usual. We did have some little issues but we've managed to fix them. But anyway, we are here for the first ever World ChampCar meeting. I am JW97 and I am joined today by ex-BTCC driver, soon to be F2 driver, Blake Moore.
Good afternoon, everybody. I just got a little bit stubborn there. Anyways.
We are here for the qualifying session here at the GP layout of Indianapolis. Obviously, last week they had pre-season testing here, but now we're here for the main thing. Of course, we still have the glitched weather graphics, but they should be sorted for the next race, of course. But we can tell you it is a dry qualifying session, so we will have no chance of that game-breaking glitch happening this time by. Because, of course, for anybody who needs a reminder, it is one-shot qualifying we're using for World Champ Car, so it should make things very interesting. And we're about to get underway with it. And the last time we saw World one-shot qualifying being used in an OC fraternity was in Formula E. Of course, that's where the game-breaking glitch was first experienced. But, of course, we're bringing it back for World Champ Car. And given with the mistake rate, Blake, it should make qualifying very, very interesting.
Yes, indeed, Joe. This will be a big challenge for the drivers and the teams. But we have one way to find out if all the teams can and drivers could cope with this one-shot qualifying. But it's very interesting, I must say.
Indeed so. Now, we should point out some things about this one-shot qualifying. The first race, it will all be in a random order. So, all the cars that are going out right now, it will all be in a random order until all 22 cars have finished out onto the racetrack. The first car that's going to come out onto the track for one-shot qualifying is Simon Mutka. But then for the remainder of the season, so from round 2 onwards, the order of one-shot qualifying will be determined by the championship standings from reverse order. From the race standings. Sorry. So from the race results, it will be from reverse order from the next race onwards. That's how the order will be determined. So that's that then. So that's how the one-shot qualifying is going to work. But for today, of course, because we haven't had any previous results to relate to, it is all going to be in random. And of course, as mentioned, the first one on track is Simon Mutka in the car lane. Of course, Simon Mutka, coming from BTCC, had a bit of a tricky season last season, but he's hoping to redeem himself here in World Champ Car.
Yes, indeed, Joe. Simon Mutka was in the Master, and to be honest, he didn't like me that very much, especially in Brandtown. And yeah, honestly, I hope he does pretty well on ChampCar, but let's hopefully he does a good one, Joe.
Indeed so, but he's going to be the first now to start their lap as they just make their way around the banking. Again, for anybody who needs a reminder, because I did mention this last week as well, we don't have the up-to-date version of Indianapolis available on Grand Prix 4. The 2007 version is the only up-to-date version that is left. And as you can see, the next one who will be out on track after Simon Mutka will be Bartus Bracky in the Viper racing car. So he'll be next up on track after Simon Mutka. But Mutka started his lap as he just makes his way around turn number 3. And as mentioned earlier, because we have the qualifying mistake rate that we have in other series as well, any mistake, it's going to be game over. So it's important that you get it right first time around. Of course, you only get one lap to prove your metal worth, basically, as I've just taken that from a Toka quote there from Tiffany Dell. But anyway, we just saw Mutka there just go out of the first sector. So far, looking at a pretty tidy lap so far, and hopefully he doesn't make any mistakes. He now makes his way through the chicane. Of course, the chicane is not like this anymore in real life, where it goes into a hairpin right and then into a hairpin left. It's now just a quick right-left chicane. But of course, as mentioned, we don't have the up-to-date version of Indianapolis available on Grand Prix 4. 2007 is the latest one that is on the game. As now Mutka just making his way now then around the final 2 corners on the racetrack, and he's going to be the one that's going to set the benchmarker time for everybody to beat. As he now makes his way around the banking and now coming around the section of corners. And just a note from Yuri, of course, if any accidents do happen in qualifying, we will not show a replay, of course, and it is to avoid any glitches. But anyway, Mutka sets the benchmarker time of 1 minute 12.829, and that is the benchmark for everybody to beat. So next up on track is going to be Bartus Bracky, and of course he's making his debut in the OC for Viper Racing, and he'll be looking to make an impression, Blake.
Yes indeed, and we have loads of Polish drivers in this series. Bracky is one of the other Polish rookies in the series, but hopefully Joe, he can make a really good impression on his first outing in ChampCar. And yeah.
Indeed so. And another note from you as well on the replay front as well. If it is a big accident, for example, if it is something major, then we will show it after everybody is run, of course. But we're not going to show it whilst everybody is running because we don't want to get any glitches. But obviously, as you see on the top left of your screen, the next one who will come out on track after Bartus Bracky will be Yuri Gabriel, another rookie in the series, and oddly enough, it's also Bartus Bracky's teammate as well in the Viper Racing. So the Viper Racing's coming out one after the other in this one-shot qualifying format. But let's see what Bracky's first sector is like compared to Mutka. 4 attempts down in the first sector. It is to be expected, really, because like in Formula E, of course, these cars are not equal. They are also in a performance system, but like with Formula E, you should still expect some close racing, even if all of them are kind of in group settings. As you would expect, the teams that mainly have rookies in them, so the Vipers and the Manners, you should expect them maybe fighting towards the back of the field, but you never know, they could spring a surprise, especially during this one-shot qualifying format.
Yeah, and we're actually going through the second sector, and yeah, he's 1 second off the pace of the benchmark, but I mean the Viper car's a bit slow, coming around through the final corner of the banking of Bracky goes. I think he might have a alright lap.
See then it. So 114.462, 1.6 seconds off of Simon Mutka. I think that might be too expected with the Vipers. It depends really on what Yuri Gabriel is able to do, because he's the next one, as mentioned, to start his next lap, of course being Bracky's teammate, and luckily he'll be able to tell the difference between the pair of them, because Gabriel is driving a green Viper racing car, whereas Bracky's driving a purple Viper racing car. But anyway, Yuri Gabriel, the Brazilian driver, just making his way out of the banking as he now starts his lap, as he now just crosses the line. And obviously for him, the aim will be to try and beat his teammate Bracky, of course, given the pace that we're expecting from the Vipers. Next up after Yuri Gabriel, speaking of Gabriel, is going to be Gabriel Gomez that is going to be out on track next. The 2017 DTM champion, coming back from, well, making his way across from the top class after missing out, being retained by Alfa Romeo, and looking for redemption in World ChampCar. He might have a good chance, given it looks like he's going to be in a very good team, Blake.
Yes, and also speaking of Gabriel's, Yuri Gabriel has actually gone as 2.65s up on his down on his teammates on his the benchmark time. I think Gabriel could have an alright lap here, Joe. So speaking of Gabriel Gomez, I think he didn't do well last season. I mean, perfectly honest, Joe, it's just down to luck in GP4C, but you know, it is what it is. Sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some.
Exactly. Meanwhile, Gabriel is on 6 attempts down on Mutka in the second sector. He might go quicker than his teammate Bracky here, but let's see. As he now rounds the banking now, then comes down towards the pit straight, and Yuri Gabriel, what is the time going to be? Across the line goes the Brazilian, and he does go quicker than his teammate. He's 9 attempts slower than Mutka, but goes into second at the moment. Now here comes Gabriel Gomez now in the Andretti Autosport car, and probably one of the guys you'll be looking at potentially who could fight for the title this season, Blake.
Yeah, and also, ChampCar has it's a very competitive field this season. Some ex-F1 drivers, some ex-BTCC drivers, and even some ex-GP2 drivers to make up the numbers, and even some rookies. So I think ChampCar could be a pretty well lit championship, if I'm perfectly honest, Joe. And I think Gonzalez could be the next one out.
It is. It will be Robino Gonzalez in the Ferrari that is going to be next on track. The Ferraris also look pretty strong in pre-season testing, so they could be a team to look out for during the course of this season. So Robino Gonzalez will be the next to go out onto the racetrack, as Gomez now then makes his way through towards the first sector, and he's gone 1/10 up on Mutka in the first sector. So as expected, Gomez looking to try and get to the top of the timing sheet, as now Gomez makes his way out of turn number, I believe that was turn number 6 there, as he now makes his way down the back straight before heading towards the sequence of hairpins, which will take him towards the end of the second sector. And ignore the timer on the top of your screen there. That is not relevant for this session, of course, because one-shot qualifying, every driver will get a chance, even with out the timer there, and Yuri does the favour there of getting rid of the timer on the top of the screen. But again, Gomez really flying through the second sector, 4 attempts up on Mutka in the second sector as he will now make his way through the final 2 corners now then before making his way towards the banking now then. This should put him at the top of the timing sheets, but let's see. No mistakes from Gomez so far as he now just comes out of the banking. Down the straight he will go, and Gomez is going to cross the line and goes quickest by 3 tenths. He actually lost some time in the last sector, but Gomez to the top with a 1 minute 12.447 as now Robino Gonzalez has now come out onto the racetrack in the Ferrari, and he's got a point to prove this season, as I've just realised that Yuri has spelt his name wrong. It's actually spelt with a Z, not an S, so I think Yuri will have to sort that out after qualifying. I do apologise for that. It's spelt with a Z, not an S, Yuri. So, anyway, as... oops, he'll get that fixed for the race, don't worry, because he does have to do the random grid anyway due to the mistake rate. So just ignore that. He will get that sorted before the race starts, of course. But anyway, Gonzalez is, speaking of which, Blake, he does have a point to prove this season because he's coming off the back of a very disappointing 2020 season.
Yeah, he struggled in the Toyota in BTCC. But if I'm perfectly honest, Joe, I think he needs to have a prove the point this season. He's one of the part of the biggest brands in the motorsport industry. So the Spaniard has a lot to prove, and he starts his lap time now.
And it looks like, as expected, we might get that little break that we have in between cars going out, of course. We saw this in Formula E as well. So I think by the time Gonzalez goes back into the pits, we should see who the next one will be to go out. So a little tiny break in between. And I think it is just to spread it out across that hour, if I'm not mistaken. So anyway, Gonzalez is actually up on Gomez in the first sector by 1/10 of a second. Let's see if he can keep that up in the remaining 2 as he now makes his way through into turn 6 and now approaching the quick left-right chicane. And that's that really, as Yuri's giving us some extra information as to what, in terms of this break, because he might actually try and remove it for the next race. But for the meantime, we will have this break for this session at least. But maybe for the next sessions, you won't see these breaks in between sessions. But again, Gonzalez up by 0.4 of a second on Gomez in the second sector, so he's actually flying at the moment. But let's not forget as well, we saw that last time out, Gomez lost some time in the last sector. So could that be the case for Gonzalez? Let's see. He now rounds the banking now. Then the Spaniard will now come down the pit straight, and Gonzalez is now going to cross the line, and he does go quickest by 0.4 of a second. He breaks into the 1 minute 11, so 1 minute 11.963 for Robino Gonzalez, and yeah, he goes to the top of the timing sheet. So we've got a brief pause for the moment, but so far Gonzalez looking very quick in that Ferrari at the moment, Blake.
Yes indeed, Joe. Gonzalez is at the moment proving himself that the Ferraris are really quick and Prix that are really quick. But let's see if there's going to be more blockades for Ferrari to head over. Like, for example, there's some other teams that could easily take over Ferrari spot, but and also it's down to track evolution, Joe. So the last cars might get a good lap out, Joe. So track evolution might have a massive play in here, but for now, Gonzalez is on provisional pole.
Indeed, and we just realised as well that Gonzalez and Thompson might have the wrong Ferraris. I think Gonzalez is meant to have the blue Ferrari rather than the red Ferrari, so maybe a change there before the race happens, because of course the numbers are not correct on either of them, because I think Gonzalez is meant to have 26 on his car, not 27. That's actually Sam Thompson's Ferrari, so we might see Sam Thompson in a blue Ferrari for this session, but we might see them switch before the race starts. But of course, the next one will be coming out on track will be Toby Holloway in the Peugeot Sport Car. Two teams, of course, who have come over from BTCC. Of course, Peugeot being the last ever BTCC champions and looking to prove a point in World ChampCar, Blake.
Yes, indeed. Peugeot was one of the biggest manufacturers when in BTCC. They won it 2 times in a row before this season. Ultimately got thrown off the GP4 schedule and replaced with ChampCar. But I think Peugeot might be one of the favourites for the title again, unless there's a massive hurdle in the way in the race. But we have one way to find out. And speaking of BTCC, we have Toby Holloway driving the Peugeot, who had a very disappointing season at the start of the season. He did pretty well in Brands Hatch, got in one of the podiums, but after that, it kind of just fell off.
Yeah, indeed, and like in the way with Robino Gonzalez, another man you could say with a point to prove. Now the Peugeots, I think they were kind of middle of the road if I remember in pre-season testing, so whether we'll see something similar during this qualifying session, we'll have to wait and see, but maybe an indication of what Peugeot's pace is like. Of course, Peugeot is one of few manufacturers, of course, to bring their own engine. I do believe there are 5 engine manufacturers in this, or 6. I know that Peugeot's got an engine, BMW have got their own engine in this, as a Ferrari. We also have Chevy and Honda in this as well. And is there another one I'm missing from the top of my head? Yes, there is. Mercedes. So there are 6 in total. So 6 engine manufacturers in this series. And it's looking to be quite an interesting series. More engine manufacturers than what there are in the real-life IndyCar series. But not like we're going to boast on that or anything like that. But anyway, Toby Holloway is going to start the lap now. Then the next one to come out on track will in fact be Nicholas Zorback in the BMW, in fact, so the second team to come across from BTCC. Of course, they're reuniting with Pyramid as a sponsor, of course, for the first time since 2018, officially making the team British as a result, as it looks like Holloway's making a little bit of an error there, going through to turn 3 and makes a huge lockup through into turn 4, so that's not going to do his lap any favours there, Blake.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a massive punch in the hole by Toby Holloway, because he will definitely miss out a lot of time in the first sector, like to the point where I don't think he might be competing for pole position. So I think Toby Holloway might just made a mess of himself. So I think that's game over for Toby Holloway. I think, unless he makes it up somehow, but I don't think it's very likely.
Remember as well, of course, because this is one-shot qualifying, you only get one chance. So for Toby Holloway, he's kind of been this lap, and as you can see, that mistake definitely cost him some more, because he finds himself a second off of Gonzalez in the middle sector. He could even get himself in between the 2 Viper cars if he's not careful, but let's see. He might just get in front of them. Let's have a look. So Holloway comes around the banking now, then comes down the pit straight, and the British driver is now going to cross the line. Where's he going to place his Peugeot? And he goes just in front of the 2, well, in fact, goes 6 tenths quicker than Gabriel. So he does get in front of the 2 Vipers, but not the lap that he was looking for. As now we look at Nicholas Zorback, who's now come out onto the racetrack in the BMW Pyramid Racing, and obviously going to be easy to read between the 2 Pyramid drivers, because Zorback is driving an orange BMW, and Balint Zolga, who's his teammate, will be driving a white BMW. So at least we'll be able to tell the difference there. It's a good thing with World Champ Car, because at least we'll be able to tell with each driver, really. So Zorback, of course, coming off the back of a few seasons in GP2, some tricky seasons, in fact, and looking to basically redeem his career here in World Champ Car, Blake.
Yeah, Nicholas Zorback is very infamous for his alright results in GP2 last season, but if I'm perfectly honest, Joe, I think Zorback struggled last season. But let's have a look at Indianapolis's first lap of Nicholas Zorback. So
This car who will be out on this car on track will be Kim Sung Min in the Manor, so the first of the Manors to make an appearance. But Nicholas Zorback has just started his lap. Now, BMW actually looked pretty decent during testing. They look like they could be in the mix for the title as well, just like with Ferrari. But let's see what Zorback can do in the first sector compared to Gonzalez. You can tell that it can be a bit confusing with the prefix, gone and gone. But anyway, 1/10 down in the first sector for Zorback compared to Robino Gonzalez, as now Zorback just comes out of turn number 6 there, as he'll now make his way towards the hairpin now then. The section of hairpins, which will bring him towards the end of sector 2. So through the left, and then he'll flick his way towards the right and left-hander. Let's see what his second sector point is like compared to Robino Gonzalez, as the German makes his way out of the second sector, and 5 tenths down in the second sector, so he looks like he's going slower than Gomez. He could put himself in around about, I'd say, 3rd or 4th, I would say. He might get himself just in front of Mutka, he might not, but let's see. Zorback now then approaches the banking now then, as he just goes around the final turn, and now onto the pit straight will go the German driver, as Nicholas Zorback is going to cross the line now then, and he goes into 3rd. He actually gets in front of Mutka, 6 tenths off of Gonzalez. I think he'll be pretty happy with that lap, Blake, as Kim Sung Min is now out on track.
Yeah, indeed, Joe, and Zorback will be very happy with that lap. I think he'll be pleased that he's even in the mix. Yeah, he's even in the mix. And then we have another rookie coming in, and so just our very long-awaited Korean driver, Kim Sung Min, driving for Manor. And he's going to cross the line now and start his lap. And the next car will be Balint Zolga.
The other BMW, so Nicholas Zorback's teammate, will be out next. But Kim Sung Min, of course, the first of the Manors on track. We do expect, like with the Vipers, there may be fighting towards the back of the field. But again, like with the Vipers, they could spring a surprise because like in Formula E, we should expect the racing to be pretty close. But maybe the targets for him are the Vipers. Let's see what his first sector is like. 4 temps down in the first sector, so he's not quicker than Yuri Gabriel in the first sector, because I do remember, I think Yuri was actually 2 temps off of Gomez in the first sector. But then, having said that, of course, Gonzalez has now gone to the top, so maybe he could be quicker than Gabriel. We'll have to wait and see. Of course, the Manor is using the same engine as what Viper are using, which is the Mercedes engine, so they carried over that partnership from when they were in the top class, of course, because Manor, of course, were in the top class, but they pulled out at the end of last season, hence why Lamborghini have now officially replaced them. Lamborghini, of course, doing a decent job so far in the top class. 1.5 down in the middle sector compared to Gonzalez. So looking at that, I think he might just split in between the 2 Viper racing cars. Might be slower than Yuri Gabriel looking at this pace, but let's see. As Kim Sung-min now then, the South Korean driver, just comes out of the banking now then. Let's see what the Korean driver can do. As Kim Sung-min now then is going to cross the line, and he goes into 7th. So as predicted, he slots in between the 2 Viper race cars. As now, Balint Zolga has come out onto the track, the 2015 DTM champion, who had a little bit of a revival in form last season in Formula E, and he's now looking to transfer that over in World ChampCar, Blake.
Yeah, indeed. The Hungarian was pretty good last season, but I think he missed out on a drive. But I think Balint Zolga has lots of pace, but I think Zolga will most likely will be very near Zorback and the Ferraris, unless he doesn't mess up his lap. But going through turn 13 comes Balint Zolga and starting his lap.
Yes, indeed, as he'll now make his way around the banking now then, as he will now be about to start his next flying, his only flying lap, I should say. As next up on track will be Jordan Howell in the McLaren. So the first of the McLarens will be coming out onto the racetrack. Of course, Jordan will have a very experienced teammate to learn from in the form of Florian Volker, and we'll get onto Howell when we get onto him. But we're now looking at Zolga, and of course, as mentioned, the BMWs look pretty strong in pre-season testing. Let's see what he's going to be like then compared to Balint to Robino Gonzalez, as he's 1/10 down in the first sector. So pretty similar to what we saw with Zorback in the first sector. So far, it looks like Balint and Nico may have some similar pace in that BMW at the moment, as he now makes his way down the back straight before heading towards the sequence of hairpins. So we'll see what his second sector is like. I do remember that I think Zorback was around 4 temps off in the second sector, if I'm not mistaken. So let's see what Zolga is like compared to Zorback in the middle sector. So the Hungarian approaches the end of the second sector now then, and he's 7 temps down. So in fact, we could be seeing that Zolga is actually going slower than Zorback at the moment, and he could actually find himself behind Mutka at this point in time now then. So the Hungarian driver making his way towards the banking now then, as he just makes his way around the final corner, and now onto the pit straight will go Balint Zolga. And where is the Hungarian going to place himself? Across the line, and he goes into 4th. So in fact, he found some time in the last sector, it's fair to say, and has managed to place himself just behind his teammate Zorback. As now we look at Jordan Howell in our McLaren SP. Of course, McLaren, a familiar name to the top class, but of course, like in real life, they're also making ventures in World ChampCar. And Jordan Howell, he's a man who's pretty much under pressure, because the last 2 seasons for him, he has been pretty much been in no man's land, really, and he's looking to redeem himself here in World ChampCar, and he's got an experienced teammate to do that, Blake.
Yeah, Holloway last season was a bit unlucky, especially in Portimao, but Holloway has definitely got a point to prove. But here he comes, going down the straight into turn 1. I think he's the last out before the break. So Holloway coming into turn 1 now. He's taken a little bit too much care, but I think he's definitely nailed that corner. I think Holloway is still learning though, but 3 seasons from BTCC, but Holloway most likely could be well, but 2 seconds off because of Gonzalez. So I think Holloway could be round 5th to 3rd, I think.
Yes, indeed. So far a decent first sector, but we'll have to wait and see, of course. But yes, he does have a big point to prove, really, after a tricky first 2 seasons in the OC fraternity and looking to redeem himself in World ChampCars. He now makes his way through the sequence of hairpins, and yes, you were correct earlier. There will be a break just after this before the next car comes out, so it'll give us some time to talk about some other things as well. But 7 temps down in the middle sector, a similar sort of sector to what Balint Zolga did. So he could find himself, but then again, we saw that Zolga found the time back in the last sector, so I think he could split himself in between both Zolga and Mutka, but we'll have to wait and see. Jordan Howell now then rounds the final banking now then, heading down the pit straight straight. Where is Jordan Howe going to place his McLaren? Across the line he will go, and he goes into 5th. So, yep, as predicted, he splits in between both Zolga and Mutka. So that's the break, and we'll wait for the next car to come out on track as soon as Jordan Howe comes back into the pits. Now, one thing I do want to point out as well, guys, you may have noticed yesterday on the wiki, I did make a little bit of an error with the dates on there. I kind of miscalculated a little bit with the dates for Formula E and World ChampCar after Yuri, of course, announced that he was going to be taking a 2-week break due to him being on vacation. I managed to get them fixed last night, so all the correct dates are now on there for both Formula E and World ChampCar. So the next time World ChampCar will come to your screens, if I just quickly double check, will be on the 26th of June, which will be at Kota. So that is also when we'll have the proper system for the one-shot qualifying coming to an effect, because of course we will have a race result being put in, of course, from that point on. As now Howell will make his way out of the final turn, and he'll be heading back into the pits this lap, and then we'll get an indication as to who will be next on the track once he gets back into the pit lane. So just keep an eye on the left-hand side to see the indicator as to who will be next on track after Jordan Howe, as the British driver makes his way back into the pits. As we still have 12 cars left to do a lap, and next one on track will be the rookie TJ Papero in the first of the Meyer Shank racing cars that will be out next. Of course, his teammate is somebody who's actually returning to the OC fraternity, that being Thomas Cassidy, but he'll be coming out a little bit later on in the session. But TJ Papero in the Meyer Shank racing car, making his debut in the series, and
Joe, I think it's TJ Papiero.
well, where is the E in that? I think it's Papero. I think.
It's just a rookie mistake, guys. It's just a rookie mistake. Okay.
I think it's pronounced Papero. But anyway, he comes out on track, and just like with the other rookies, he's looking to have a decent rookie season, Blake.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Papiero. Oh, Jesus, I cannot get it out of my head. Jesus, I need to learn this. Jesus. Oh.
It's all right. It's only the first race.
I've still got a long way to go, lad. Okay.
It's only the first race. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But anyway, TJ Papero is out next on track, so that means we would have had half the drivers do their laps as he now makes his way towards the section of hairpins. As the Meyer Shank, I don't know whereabouts they were in pre-season testing. I can't actually quite remember, but I think they did actually pretty decently. But we'll have to wait and see what they can do now then with the Honda power in the back of their car, as now TJ Papero prepares himself for his one-shot lap, as he will now make his way towards the banking now then. Just making his way through the banked corner now then, and then we'll also get to see who'll be next on track straight after him on the top left of your screen as TJ Papero starts his lap. And the next one on track will be Bartus Kloss that will be next on track in the Team Penske car. So we'll be seeing a Penske on track next, and it will be Bartus Kloss. Of course, we've already had one Bartus out on track, that being Bartus Bracky. He's in 10th, so of course the next one will be Bartus Kloss. As TJ Papero now then, just making his way out of turn 4, and let's see what his first sector time is like compared to Robino Gonzalez, and he is 5 tenths down in the first sector, so he might be just in front of the Manners and the Vipers at the moment, or the one man I should say, because the other Manor hasn't been out on track just yet. That being, of course, Francesca Larosa, who's finally, after a long wait, is finally making his OC debut. As now Papero now just comes out of the hairpin. Let's see what his second sector is like compared to Robino Gonzalez. 1.6 seconds down, in fact, so he's not actually having a very good lap, and he could actually find himself possibly down just only in front of Bartus Bracky at the moment. So it looks like the Meyer Shanks might be mixing it in with the Manners and the Vipers at the moment this season, for this session at least, unless his teammate Thomas Cassidy finds an improvement. But again, this is only his rookie season, so maybe a learning experience for him. But Papero goes into 9th position, slots in behind Yuri Gabriel, as here is Bartus Kloss in the Verizon liveried Team Penske. Of course, Bruno De Barros will be in a Shell liveried Penske, and so you'll be able to tell the difference between these two. But Bartus Kloss, of course, was in the DTM title fight last season, and he's currently, for anybody wondering, the Haas test driver, and looking to see if he can bring his experience over to World ChampCar, Blake.
Yeah, I think Kloss could be one of the favourites for the title this year, but that's one way to find out. But I think Kloss will be the most experienced driver. He He's the Haas F1 driver, as you just mentioned, and he did pretty well in DTM last season, so Bloss could be one of the favourites for the title, but we have only waited to find out, Joe.
Indeed, as he's now just about to start his lap, just coming around the banking now, then will go the Polish driver as Kloss now starts his qualifying lap, and next one on track will be Thomas Cassidy in the Meyer Shank car. So we've already seen his teammate go on track, and now the other Meyer Shank racing car will be out on track after Bartus Kloss. And Thomas Cassidy, of course, making his return to the OC fraternity for the first time since 2017. We'll get on to more of him later, but let's see what Kloss's first sector is like compared to Robino Gonzalez. He's 900ths off in the first sector, so he's not that far. If he can still claw that back in the second sector and try and get a purple middle sector, but Kloss looking like he could be in the fight for pole position in this session, as he will now make his way towards the hairpin, providing he doesn't make any mistakes, of course. Of course, we've only seen one mistake kicking today, and that's in the form of Toby Holloway, who locked up going into turn number 4. Let's see what Kloss is able to do then, just going around the hairpins. And let's see what his middle sector time now then is going to be like now then. And he loses some time. In fact, he's now 4 tenths down in the middle sector. So he could end up being slower than Gabriel Gomez. But I think he could actually get himself potentially into 3rd position. But let's see. It depends on how much time he loses in this last sector. Or potentially even gains. We'll have to wait and see. Kloss now then, just coming out of the banking. Down the pit straight he goes. And Bartus Kloss crosses the line where he's going to place himself. And he goes into 2nd. He actually found some time in the last sector there. So up into 2nd place goes Bartus Kloss, as now we look at Thomas Cassidy in the Meyer Shank racing car, and as mentioned earlier, he's back in the OC fraternity for the first time since 2017 when he was in Formula E, and looking to make a good return, Blake.
Yeah, yes indeed. I don't know this guy before. I was not even in the OC, but I didn't watch the OC in 2018, so I think Thomas Cassidy could have a good return to the OC, even though I do not know him whatsoever. So yeah.
Yes, indeed, and he'll be looking to have a good return, because of course the last time he was in the OC he did struggle a little bit, so maybe he could be back as a revived driver here in 2021. But next one on track will be Joao Pedro Kirby in the Chip Ganassi car, another driver making his return to the OC after suffering a suspension in 2020 and looking to redeem himself in 2021. We'll get onto him in just a little bit. But Cassidy now just comes around turn number 2. I'm not sure if he took that curve a little bit too aggressively there going into the first corner, but his teammate Papero was in 10th. Let's see what Cassidy's middle sector is like. He's 5 tenths down in the middle sector. I think that is a better sector overall compared to his teammate TJ Papero, but we'll have to wait and see by the time that his lap comes to an end, of course. But he just comes out of turn number 6 now then, before he approaches the section of hairpins, just going around this 90-degree left-hander before he approaches there, and it looks like he might have had a bit of understeer there, judging from how his wheels were kind of going around the corner there. So I don't know if Cassidy just made a little error there going into that first part of that section there. And I think he has. Yes, he's lost a lot of time, so he definitely did lose a lot of time, and it was a mistake there from Cassidy. So it looks like he might be on the back row of the grid as a result of that mistake, Blake.
Yes, indeedy.
As he now makes his way, he will now make his way around the banking. Let's see what Cassidy can do. Could he potentially try and gain some time in the last sector? Let's see. The Venezuelan driver across the line, and he goes into 12th position just in front of Bracky. So yeah, that mistake definitely cost him. But here is Joao Pedro Kirby now then in the Chip Ganassi racing car. Another driver making his return to the OC fraternity after he was forced to be set on the sidelines in 2020 and looking to bounce back, because the last time he was in the OC, of course, it was a bit of a disaster for him.
Yeah. Yeah, Duda Kirby was really terrible, didn't have the best luck in Formula E, but hopefully his fortunes can finally turn back on him. I don't know, after after 2 seasons, I guess? 1 or 2, I forgot, I've lost count. And next is Flo.
Yes, it is. It's Florian Volker who will be next out on track after Joao Pedro Kirby. The 5-time top class champion will be out next, and it'd be very interesting to see what he can do. Another man who's looking to redeem himself after 2 tricky seasons in DTM. It's Kirby now then will just make his way through into turn 4, and let's see what his first sector is like. He's 1 tenth down on Gonzalez in the first sector, so he could put himself in that top 4 to top 5 threshold. We are expecting that Chip Ganassi, of course, are probably going to be championship contenders this season, and it's no real surprise really, is given their history. So we should expect, like with Team Penske, they should be pretty quick out of the box. Of course, we yet to see Kirby's teammate, of course, which is Zachary Fitzwater. He should be coming out a little bit later on, as Kirby now then makes his way out of these section of hairpins. Let's see what his middle sector is going to be like. and he finds himself 5 tenths down in the middle sector. So I think he could put himself into the top 5 with this lap. He might just slot behind Nicola Zorback unless he gains some time in the last sector, like we've seen with a couple of drivers today. As there comes Joao Pedro Kirby now then, who's just making his way out of the banking now then, as JP Kirby makes his way down the pit straight and across the line will go the Brazilian driver, and he goes into 4th. He actually found some time in the last sector. P4 it is for Joao Pedro Kirby. In fact, he didn't find some time. He only just dropped by 1,000 there, probably because there's not that much into this lap. But here is Florian Volker now then, the 5-time top class champion. Probably a lot of star power with his name in this series, and looking to redeem himself after a tricky 2 seasons in DTM, Blake.
Yes, indeed. Volker was on the back foot ever since he joined DTM, but he didn't get used to the car very quickly, unfortunately. That's why he moved to ChampCar, which car's a little bit more familiar to him. But however, Volker is now coming out on the track, and he's the last one before the break.
Well, we'll be having another break after this one. I think it is every 5 cars, I think, and then there'll be another break after the 20th car comes out before we get onto the final 2 that will be out on the racetrack, because of course it is a 22-car grid. I don't know if Volker made a little bit of an error going into the first few corners there. I only just caught it with the bring of my eye. But let's see what his first sector is like. He's 1/10 down on Gonzalez in the first sector. And his teammate, Jordan Howe, currently in 7th place at the moment. So let's see what Volker is like compared to his teammate. A lot of people are expecting Volker to basically beat Jordan Howe this season. But we'll have to wait and see on that as he now makes his way through the section of corners, flicking it in for the left and then going into the hairpin will go Florian Volker, the section of hairpins. And let's see what his second sector is like compared to the Spaniard in the Ferrari. And let's see what his middle sector is like. And he's 4 tenths down in the second sector. So I think he will be in front of Jordan Howe. And I think he might actually, looking at the time, might even get himself into the top 4 here. He might actually have a very good qualifying session, could the 5-time champion. But Volker now then makes his way through the banking. And Florian Volker will come across the line now then in our McLaren SP. Volker across the line. And he goes into the top 4 as predicted. 3 thousandths off of Gabriel Gomez there. So over to P4 goes Florian Volker. And I think he'll be pretty happy with that lap, Blake.
Yes, Flo is definitely going to be a bit more happy than miserable. But I mean, it's not. I mean, P4's not that bad at the moment. But I mean, it could have been worse because top 4 could be really crucial on the start. But yeah, Volker will be definitely will be happy with that one, but not be ecstatic.
Yes, indeed, but at least he may have found his form in this now that he's back in cars that you could say are familiar to him in open-wheel machinery, but I would expect these cars to be a lot different in terms of handling compared to the top-class cars, because I think they're a little bit more heavier, if I am not mistaken, or a lot heavier, I should say, than top-class cars. But Volker will be heading back into the pits this lap, and once he gets back into the pits, we will see who'll be next to come out on track after him, of course, because we've still got 7 more cars to do a lap around here at the GP layout of Indianapolis. Volker now then heading into the pits as he will now just come into the pits, and we'll soon be seeing on the top left who'll be next to come out after him as he's now in the pit lane. And Volker will be having that. Next up on track will be Igor Peter in the Andretti. So we already saw his teammate go out a little bit earlier on, but now his teammate Igor Peter will be next on track. Igor Peter, of course, coming over from BTCC, and he actually had a pretty good season in BTCC, Blake.
Yeah, he was. Yep, Igor Peter was was actually one of the better drivers in the BMW last season. But he was, and also he was very well known for his famous finish at Alton Park, Joe.
Yes, indeed. That photo finish he had with Jafari Blackwood as well. Probably the closest ever finish we've seen in any OC category. And who knows if that will ever get replicated ever again. But anyway, Igor Peter is now coming out onto the racetrack. And he'll be coming out on track. And he is obviously running a very different livery to Gomez as expected, because unlike Gomez, who's driving a Napa car, we see Igor Peter driving a Halfords car. Halfords, if you don't know, of course, obviously is a how would you describe it? It's basically like a it's basically like Quick Fit in a way. Basically, it's basically their rivals, really. So so here comes Igor Peter then, the Halfords livery. In the Alfred's livery Andretti car, and his teammate currently in third position, so you would expect Igor to possibly be around sort of the pace that Gabriel Gomez has set, Blake.
Yeah, indeed. Andretti Chipkanassi are really well known for being dominant in IndyCar and /ChampCar, whatever you want to call it. So I think Andretti and Giovinazzi will be at the top, but at the moment Gonzalez is the fastest car at the moment in the Ferrari. But I think Igor Peter might take a bite of it. I don't know. Let's find out.
See, as he's going to be starting his lap very, very soon now, then, as he just makes his way around the banking, as he'll now make his way onto the pit straight now then, and Igor Peter will start his lap now then. So, and next up on track will be Sam Thompson, another driver who's returning to the OC fraternity, and he's also driving the Ferrari. Of course, we think it's the run-coloured Ferrari he'll be in, because we think he should be in the red Ferrari rather than the blue Ferrari, so that might get changed for the race itself. So you should see Gonzalez potentially in the blue Ferrari and Sam Thompson in the red Ferrari by the time the race starts. With Peter 300s up on Gonzalez in the first sector, so Peter setting the lap times afloat in the first sector now then, but can he keep it up, because it's only 38 thousandths he's up on Gonzalez in that first sector. But Peter looking to be very quick here at the GP layout of Indianapolis as he now makes his way towards the left and then into the hairpins. He will now go then the section of hairpins where you could lose all the time now, then flicking it in for the right and then into the left will go Igor Peter, and let's see what his middle sector is like compared to Robino Gonzalez. Can he still be purple in the middle sector? Yes, he can. He's actually found a little bit more time in the middle sector, nearly a tenth up on Gonzalez in the second sector, so we could be looking at a provisional pole lap at the moment then for Igor Peter. But let's see as he now makes his way through into the banking now then he goes as the Halfords Andretti car now then makes his way down the pit straight, and Peter is going to cross the line. Can he go quicker than Gonzalez? Yes, he can by 82 thousandths of a second. He lost a little bit of time in that last sector, but Peter now with a benchmark time of 1 minute 11.881, and a brilliant lap there for Igor Peter. As now out on track is Sam Thompson in the Ferrari now then, and he's making his return to the OC fraternity for the first time since 2017 when he was in BDCC. He obviously was attracted back to the OC as he saw what World ChampCar was all about, and he's looking to make an impression here.
Yeah, two things. Well, Igor Peter has set a blistering lap, and hopefully Sam Thompson could have a good season. And now he's across the line in the Ferrari, and next is
It is Alex Eric Lucien, one of the rookies in the series. He'll be next on track in the Peugeot Sport car, so the second Peugeot Sport that will be making his way out on track. But Sam Thompson has just started his lap now then as he makes his way through into turn 4 now then, and let's see what his first sector is going to be like. And he's 1/10 down on Peter in the first sector, and he could be around about where his teammate is, Gonzalez, but we'll have to wait and see. But then again, looking at that, I don't think he will be. He might actually lose a bit of time in the second sector, so it looks like Gonzalez might actually have the pace on Thompson at the moment, Blake.
Yes indeed. Now here comes Thompson going through the second sector, through the two double hairpins, through 8, 9, 10, and through the second sector, trying to burst up the power into turn 11. And yeah, he's very off the pace in the second sector, so Sam Thompson might be around top 6, top 5 territory at the moment, Joe. So, here comes Sam Thompson. Sorry, let me just do the rest. Sorry. Sorry. Okay, so Sam Thompson going around the final corner now through turn 13, crosses the line, and it's going to be P3. That's actually an alright lap by Sam Thompson, gotta admit, Joe.
Yes, indeed, but it's still just under 4/10 off of Gonzalez at the moment, so he'll be hoping he can keep hold of that, but so far pretty close within the top 2. Next up on track is the rookie, Alex Eric Lucien from France, and, well, I think I'll just copy and paste a quote from the previous rookies. Another man looking to make an impression, and he might be in a decent team to do that. As there's Prix silence there from Blake as now he's just come out of the banking. As yes. Alex Eric Lucien now then is about to start his lap. And next up on track will be Zachary Fitzwater in the Chip Ganassi racing car. So the second Chip Ganassi will come out onto the track. His teammate Kirby currently in 7th, so we'll see what the Australian can do once he starts his lap. But Alex Eric Lucien now then has started his lap as he will now make his way towards the section of corners. And let's see what his first sector is like compared to Igor Peter, as he'll now be 2/10 down in the first sector. So not a bad first sector there for the Frenchman. His teammate, Jordan Howell, currently in 10th position, so we'll have to compare him to him to see where he ends up. But if he ends up beating his teammate in his first qualifying session, I think that'll be a massive achievement, Blake.
Yeah, that'll put Holloway on the massive back foot. Lucien is just going through the two hairpins through 9 and 10. So I think Lucien could likely do the first sector. So Lucien, so posting out, he's I don't know. I think it could be around 96. Okay, Joe, you can do your thing.
They actually lost a lot of time there in that second sector. I didn't notice a mistake from the Frenchman, so I don't know if he was taking it a bit too cautiously or not. But it looks like Holloway might beat him or not. Let's see. Across the line goes Lucien, and in fact, no, Lucien does beat him by just under 0.2 of a second. So he goes into 12th position. So I guess that is an achievement there for Alex Eric Lucien. Now out on track next then is Zachary Fitzwater in the Chip Ganassi racing car. A lot of people call him unlucky in the OC. Not so much Evan Byrne, but some people call him unlucky in the series. But he's now in a series that he is very familiar with in real life and looking to make an impression, Blake.
Yeah, last season Zachary Fitzwater got 2 podiums at Spa and at Silverstone, but I think Zachary Fitzwater he's the most unluckiest driver, and the next car up after Fitzwater is going to be...
That is, if I remember correctly, that is... let me get the Wikipedia up on that. I'm trying to think who Fran is. Oh, alright, you do that whilst I look at...
Francesca Larosa.
Oh, it's Francesca Larosa. Okay, yes, it's another rookie driver. So the second manor will be coming out on track. But Zachary Fitzwater, meanwhile, 1/10 down in the first sector. And looking at where his teammate is, he's currently in 7th place, just under 7/10 of a fellow compatriot Igor Peter. So let's see what Fitzwater is like compared to teammate Kirby now then, as Fitzwater now then making his way around the section of hairpins through the right and then into the left-hander now then we will go. And let's see what his middle sector is like compared to Peter. And he's 4/10 down in the middle sector, so he could actually beat Kirby at this point. He could actually place himself into potentially the top 4, maybe even the top 5 with this lap. Let's see. We are expecting Fitzwater, of course, you could say, could be a title contender because we're expecting Chip Ganassi to be quite quick in this series. But anyway, Fitzwater now then coming down the pit straight, and the Australian is going to cross the line, and he goes into 3rd. He actually exceeds my expectations. He found a lot of time in that last sector. In fact, a lot of time, over 1/10. Just under 2/10 there he found in the last sector and puts himself into 3rd. A brilliant recovery in the last sector there for Zachary Fitzwater. Here is Francesco Larosa, who'll be doing his first ever qualifying lap. But what a lap there from Fitzwater in that last sector, Blake.
Yeah. Fitzwater actually splits the 2 Ferrari as well. So Fitzwater has definitely got the pace, and Francesco Larosa is definitely going to prove himself in the manner for his first outing for the OC. So after waiting some time, he's finally in the OC, and he's going to cross the line and start his lap. After that, it's the break.
The last break, of course, before the final 2 cars come out onto the racetrack. As Larosa now then looking to make an impression. Of course, he is in a Manor, so we should be comparing him to the Manors and the Vipers. His teammate in this series, if I can remember correctly, is Kim Sung-min, and he finds himself in 17th. So let's see what Larosa can do. He's 6/10 down on Peter in the first sector. So again, we're not expecting the Manors to challenge at the front, but who knows? They could spring a little bit of a surprise in this series. We'll have to wait and see as he now makes his way down the back straight before making his way towards the next sequence of hairpins, as he will now make his way towards the left-hander. So just missing the curb on the inside there before making his way towards the hairpins through the right, and then into the left-hander will go the Italian. And let's see what Larosa is able to do now then. And the second sector time, 1.9 seconds down the middle sector. So I think he might actually slot himself behind his teammate, but I think he'll get himself in front of Thomas Cassidy, who obviously made that mistake on his lap, and he's probably going to be kicking himself tomorrow. Well, not tomorrow, for today, of course, and we'll have to make it all to do a little bit later on in the race. As now we look at Francesco Larosa now then, he's just making his way down the pit straight, and Larosa crosses the line and slots into 18th position. As predicted, just slots behind his teammate for the moment. But we've got 2 more cars left to do a lap, and we'll see who'll be the first of those 2 cars to go out on track as soon as Larosa comes back into the pit. But yeah, I'm still, I'm just, still shocked about that last sector that Fitzwater was able to pull there, Blake.
Yeah, Fitzwater shows he's definitely got the pace, but qualifying pace is definitely matters around in the series, because if you make a mistake, you're definitely gonna lose loads of time. But Fitzwater, I don't get how he used the car. I don't know. He gained. Well, I don't know how many seconds Fitzwater gained, but Jesus, he's definitely got the pace of Fitzwater today. But yeah.
Yes, indeed. As Larosa now then will be coming back into the pit, and we'll see who's going to be the last 2 cars to come out onto the racetrack. Larosa now then will be approaching the pits, and and then he'll be preparing his lap. One of the cars that will still be left to come out is Bruno De Barros in the Penske. And the other driver, if I'm trying to think off the top of my head who it could be...
I think it's Zopper from Carlin.
It's Soper, yes. It's Frederick Soper who will be the last one to come out. And it will be him next. It'll be Frederick Soper who will be next to come out on track. So that means that Bruno De Barros will be the last car to come out on track. The man who actually topped pre-season testing in the Team Penske car. And we'll get on to De Barros in just a little bit. But Frederick Soper, another rookie in the series. And with a decent team to actually do a decent job in qualifying. Because at the moment, his teammate, Simon Mutka, fellow Polish driver in fact, currently in 12th position. So he could be looking at potentially a top 10 start here if Soper is able to outpace his teammate today, Blake. And that would be a brilliant start to his time in the OC.
Yes, indeed, Joe. I think Zorback is also alongside his Polish teammate. So I think he could learn a lot from Mutka. But Zorback is definitely going to be on the pace, on the pace if you think about it. And hopefully Zorback can do as much as possible to gain lots about on the Carlin car. But yeah, hopefully Zorback can do a good qualifying lap.
Indeed, as he now comes out onto the racetrack in the green and blue Carlin, as he will now make his way through turn 3. And through to turn 4 he will go. And Soper, of course, another driver who has been waiting quite a while to get into the OC, a little bit like Francesca Larosa and like Kim Sung-min as well. But finally he's making his OC debut this season and looking to make an impression. And one way to do that could be if he tries to out-qualify his slightly experienced teammate, but only by a season, Simon Mutka. As Soper now then will make his way towards the section of hairpins. As he will now make his way into the first hairpin, the right-hander, and then into the second hairpin we will go, as he will now approach the last few parts of the track through the second to last corner. Well, not the second last corner, this is actually the third to last corner. This is the second to last corner, and then the final corner, of course, will be the tricky banking, as he will now make his way through the banking now, then he will go. And Soper now then is going to start his qualifying lap, and then we'll be seeing Bruno De Barros who will be last across the line. As just to confirm it, it will be Bruno De Barros who will be last to come out onto the racetrack. The man, of course, who topped pre-season testing in last week here at the same track. So you could expect De Barros possibly to challenge for pole position, but we will have to wait and see. As Soper now then just rounds turn number 4 now then through into turn 5, and let's see what his first sector is like. 2 temps down in the first sector. Not a bad first sector for the Polish rookie, as he will now make his way through into turn number 6. So through turn 6 he will now go, as he will now make his way towards the hairpins. And let's see what his middle sector is going to be like. We do notice as well that the drivers tend to lose a little bit of time in this middle sector. So let's see how much Soper potentially loses, or maybe even gains. He might pull a miracle off in this middle sector. Soper now then approaches the middle sector, and he's 9 temps down in the middle sector. So just trying to look where his teammate is, Mutka. It's going to be pretty tight. I think he might actually just slot behind Mutka, unless, as we've seen with a few drivers, he actually finds some time in the last sector and potentially trying to creep himself into the top 10, which would put the BMW of Zolga outside of that top 10, but we will see. But anyway, down the pit straight then comes Frederick Soper. Across the line he will go, and he goes into 11th. Found some time in the last sector, so actually out-qualifies Mutka, but just misses out on that top 10 by 20, I think that's 27 thousandths of a second. But here is the last car out on track, and it is Bruno De Barros in the Team Penske car. And you could say, judging from pre-season testing, Blake, probably one of the favourites to go for the title this season.
Yeah, indeed, Joe. Bruno De Barros last season and even pre-season testing did pretty well, even in BTCC. He destroyed me. We don't talk about that. We need to move on. That I think Bruno De Barros might just get pole position, and now he's going to start his lap.
Let's not try and jinx him, because you never know. He might not get pole. So far, it will be a Brazilian. We can say for sure it will be a Brazilian that will take pole position for the race. But which Brazilian, whether it's Peter or De Barros, we'll have to wait and see. But De Barros just making his way through the sections and corners, and I think he actually had a little bit of a wiggle going out of turn 3 there, so that might not be good there for Bruno De Barros. Let's see what his first sector is like, and he's 2 temps down in the first sector, so I think that wiggle might have been a mistake there from De Barros. I don't think I was seeing things, so maybe just pushing that little bit too hard. It was a mistake, so yes. It looks like he may have been pushing a little bit too hard there, going into the first few corners. So De Barros will need to find some kind of miracle because it looks like Igor Peter might have got the first ever pole position in World ChampCar. And if I'm not mistaken, he actually took the first. No, in fact, I think that was his teammate. In fact, from BTCC that got the first ever got the first pole of 2020 last season in BTCC. But I'll probably double check that whilst we're on the break. But anyway, Bruno De Barros 3 temps down in the second sector. Looking at this, I think he might slot himself potentially into the top 4. But let's see as De Barros now then just comes around the banking now then comes down the pit straight, and De Barros is now going to cross the line in the Team Penty car. Across the line he will now go, and he goes into third actually, so he exceeds that. So P3 for Bruno De Barros. But what could have been if he had not made that mistake in the first sector? But whatever the case, it is going to be Igor Peter that will take the first ever World Champ Car pole position, and well, pretty much deserved, you'd say, Blake.
Yes, indeed, Joe. Igor Peter was definitely the quicker car, and even I say I think surprise of the qualifying session. I'm gonna say it's either Zachary Fitzwater or Gonzalez. I thought Gonzalez is gonna drop off after a couple laps, but no, Gonzalez actually held his ground for almost the entire session. So props up to Gonzalez for that, and Zachary Fitzwater.
Yes, indeed. But here is the grid then, for anybody to remind you. Igor Peter will be on pole position with Robino Gonzalez in second place. And then it will be Bruno De Barros in third, Zachary Fitzwater fourth, Sam Thompson fifth, Bartus Bracky in sixth with Gabriel Gomez in seventh, followed by Florian Volker in eighth, Joe Pedro Kirby in ninth, Nicholas Zorback in 10th, with Balenciaga in 11th, and you can do the rest, Blake.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Zopa is in P12, Jordan Howell is in P13, Simon Mutka is in P14, Eric Lucien is in P15, 16th is Toby Holloway, Yuri Gabriel in P17, TJ is in P18, Kim Sun-min is in P19, Francesca Larosa and Thomas Cassidy are the last 2 cars on the grid.
Yes, indeed. Well, we're just going to wait a little bit for Yuri to sort out the grid and also to sort out the cars that were wrong, and of course the names for Gonzalez. And I've also just realised as well he spelt Frederick Soper's first name wrong. It's spelt like that, Yuri. So might as well just point that one out to you. But yeah, just a few things, but we'll get we'll just get those things sorted out before we get on to the race, which hopefully will get started before what the schedule says, which is 3:15. But we will see, of course. Might be a little bit after that, but we will see. But anyway, I'm just going to quickly double check, in fact, to see if it was Igor Peter that took the BTCC pole last season for the first race of the season. I'm just going to quickly double check on that. I don't think it...
Joe, it was definitely Maro Koenig. I remember it.
It was a BMW. That's why I got him confused. That's why. It was Marvo Koenig.
Yeah, it's definitely.
It was Marvo Koenig that got the pole last season. I do apologise. But anyway, yeah, Igor Peter takes the first ever pole. But I would say keep an eye on Bruno De Barros in the race, Blake.
Yeah. Yes, indeed, Joe. And don't forget the other drivers as well, especially the Chip Ganassi cars. But yeah, I think this will be... But firstly, you need to survive the first corner in Indianapolis if you want to continue the race, for that matter.
Yes, indeed. But it will be very interesting to see who gets the first ever World Champ Car victory. Might as well point out as well, whilst we're here as well, about the race distance for this. Well, it's all been set up by Yuri, but you should expect it to be around 70 to 80% F1 race distance. He has set the laps himself, by the way, like I said. So you could expect us this as well, because he did tell us this before we went on the air, that the pit stops, we're looking at potentially a 2-stop race for this one, for World Champ Car. Some might go for the 1 stop. We'll have to wait and see. But we could be looking at a strategic race here, Blake.
Yes, indeed, Joe.
So, have to wait and see on that. In terms of the wiki, I will sort that out after the stream is finished, so don't worry about that. But for the meantime, apologies if I go a little bit silent for the moment, because we will have the race on the same stream, so don't go anywhere, guys. The stream is not over yet. But yeah, so for the meantime, guys, I am going to grab a picture of Igor Peter, if I can remember where he was. Do apologize for this, but sorry if I go a little bit silent for the moment, guys, as I just focus on trying to get the correct picture for this. As yeah, as my stream decides to on my end there decides to play up on me there. The YT stream, that is not Yuri. I just thought I'd point that out before he gets a little bit confused. But here we go. So apologies if I got a little bit silent for the moment, guys. I'll be back. Yes, indeed. Go. It's up on the Twitter now, so that's that really. So yeah, I don't know how many laps it's going to be, but I will find that out a little bit later on. But 60. Okay, so it will be 60 laps according to Yuri there. So 60 laps we're looking at for Indianapolis and potentially a 1 to 2 stop race for this one. So we will see what happens there, really. Yuri says it will be all drivers to do 2 stops, but who knows really what the game's thinking. So that's that really.
Anyone can go for like anyone like, hey mate, I think we should go for 1 stop. Yeah, sure, why not, mate?
Yeah, indeed. So who knows really what to expect. But one thing. Okay, fair enough. But so mandatory 2 stops for this race then. So either way, we're looking at it, Blake. I think we are in for a very exciting race for this one. I've just realised he's muted there, so I'll ask him later. So anyway, as we just wait for things to go out. So let us know, guys. What did you make of the first qualifying session? Did you think it was very exciting? And do you think we could be looking at a very exciting first ever World ChampCar race for GP4 OC? Because I personally think we're looking at a very good race to kick this championship off in the right way. And looking at the season ahead, I think we're looking at a very, very good season. JP says absolutely. And of course, for anybody who needs a reminder of the calendar, of course, we're at Indianapolis GP this week, of course. I should remind you as well that there are no ovals in this series, for anybody who needs a reminder, because ovals don't work very well on Grand Prix 4. So it's all road courses on this calendar, / street circuits, of course. So that's that really. So, of course, we're at Indianapolis this week. The GP layout of Indianapolis kicks things off. And then we'll be heading off on the 26th of June to COTA and Austin, Texas, before heading off 2 weeks later at Road America. Of course, like with another track, it is subject to track testing. So, if the track testing goes well, then Road America, along with the other circuit I'll get onto later, will be on the calendar. But if not, then they will be replaced. by other tracks, I'm pretty sure. But that will be round 3, Road America, before we head off to Laguna Seca for round number 4. That will be 2 weeks after Road America. And then a further, if I do the math square, then it'll be 3 weeks later, we head off to Long Beach in California for round 5. That's the other one that is subject to track testing along with Road America. So we'll have to wait and see if that one works out pretty well. Silverstone will be a week later. That will be the first non-USA race, the first European race of the season. The 21st of August will be at Silverstone in Great Britain for round 6. And then 2 weeks after that, we'll be off to Spa for round 7, Spa-Francorchamps. A further 2 weeks later, it's Monza for round 8. Followed by another 2 weeks later, we'll be off to the Nürburgring. That will be the final European race of the season before we head off to Yeohgnam for the first of 3 races in Asia. And so that's that really. As then 2 weeks later, it'll be the first of 2 Japanese races, which will end off the season. Fuji Speedway will be round 11 on the 30th of October, and then a week later, the final race of the season will be at Suzuka. So back-to-back meetings at Japan. Fuji being first on the 30th of October, and then Suzuka on the 6th of November. So very exciting championship, Blake. And which tracks are you particularly looking forward to from that calendar?
Exciting track? I'm going to say one thing, Laguna Seca. Laguna Seca has to be one of the most exciting tracks on the calendar because in GP2 last time out, even though it didn't produce the best racing, but I mean, my goodness me, the battles in GP2 around that track were amazing. So I'm gonna say Laguna Seca could produce one of the best races of the season, or I might just jinx it. Yeah.
Oh, okay, and we have got the grid ready to go, so we are going to be getting underway pretty soon for the race then. Now, before we go on to it, I need to double check. Of course, I've seen that the name has been correctly changed for Gonzalez, but am I right in saying that you've got the car sorted, Yuri? Okay, and I presume you've got Frederick's first name sorted as well, like I pointed out on the Discord. As he's just quickly double checking on that. Yes, he has. He has double checked that. So anyway, let's get on with the grid then. So I think we'll do what Rob does and go 4x4 if you don't mind, Blake.
Yes, I don't mind doing 4x4.
Okay, so I'll start off then. So on pole position, for anybody who didn't watch qualifying, it is Igor Peter who is on pole position with Robino Gonzalez in the correct Ferrari in second place. Bruno De Barros will start in third with Zachary Fitzwater in fourth position.
So the other top 4 now is Sam Thompson in the other Ferrari, Bartus Bracky in the Penske in P6, Gabriel Gomez in the Andretti's in P7, and Florian Volker in P8.
Next up is Joe Pedro Kirby in the Chip Ganassi in 9th, followed by Nicolas Zorback in the first of the BMWs in 10th. His teammate Balenciaga just missed out on the top 10 in 11th, with Frederick Soper in 12th.
In P13, we got the McLaren of Jordan Howell, Mutka in P14, Lucien in P15, the 2 Peugeots and the other Peugeot of Toby Holloway in P16.
17, it's the rookie Yuri Gabriel in 17th in the Viper, followed by TJ Papero in 18th. King Sun Min will start in 19th with Francesca Larosa in 20th. And on the back row of the grid, Blake,
it's Thomas Cassidy and Bratsky.
Bartus Bracky. And just to clear, I think that is dry conditions, if I'm not mistaken, Yuri.
Yeah. No.
Okay, so it's going to be a completely dry race, guys. So no rain for this race. A bone dry race, sunny conditions. And without further ado, let's get into the first ever World Champ Car race. 60 laps of action, a 2-stop race expected here. It is going to be very, very exciting indeed. The first ever World Champ Car race is about to get underway. And here we are then on the grid then for the start of the first ever World Champ Car race. It's Igor Peter on the left of your screens. It is Robino Gonzalez on the right with the correct Ferrari this time by. And we're going to wait for the 5 red lights to go off to the start of the first ever GP4 World Champ Car OC. And we wait for those lights to go out. A bit of a long hold for this one as we wait for those lights to go out. And there was no light indicator, but we are now underway. Either way then, so the first ever World Champ Car race is underway, and it is a very good start from Igor Peter, who comes off from Robino Gonzalez. But Gonzalez is going to try and go for the inside into the first corner, and he's got the lead, I think. Yes, he has. Gonzalez takes the lead of here at Indianapolis. A brilliant start from Gonzalez. And we've got a yellow flag in the first corner.
Oh, that's a massive one.
Bracky and Cassidy. So already 2 retirements in the first ever World Champ Car race, and 2 retirements caused in the form of Cassidy and Bracky there. So not a good start for Bracky in his first ever race, but Cassidy on his return, not a good start either. And it looks like Cassidy had a terrible start there, and there's more damage. In fact, it looks like Rule 1 in racing, never hit your teammate, and unfortunately that hasn't translated very well to both Bartus Bracky and Yuri Gabriel. But it looked like that Thomas Cassidy had a very terrible start there.
Yeah, indeed, Joe. And also, like I said before, you need to survive turn 1 if you want to finish the race. Well, I got Peter. Now he's lining up Gonzalez here. He may have the go down around the outside of the Spaniard, but to no avail.
Oh, but it definitely looks like he's wanting to attack him on this lap. As hello, Sana Quay. Kill me for that, but that's what Google Translate said. Who is in the chat? Anyway, we go back to the action now then. As you can see, the top 2 trying to break away a little bit from Bruno De Barros, who is trying his best to catch back up to these 2. But Peter could be lining up Gonzalez for a pass into the first corner, maybe even into the banking, because we saw in Prix and testing there were some overtakes. Here comes Peter. He's going to try and go for the banking. Side by side to go now then, but Gonzalez says no to that. So Peter will try and tuck back into the situation, try and possibly get him into the first corner. But I think he's backed off a little bit too much. I think Gonzalez has given himself a bit of a gap as he sets the early fastest lap of the race. I should point out as well, you do get pole position. You get a point for pole position. So I got Peter got that, and you also get a point for the fastest lap of the race, no matter what position you're in. Meantime, Howell on the inside of I believe that was Holloway. He's trying to get by there. As side by side go to pair of them, and Howell gets the position done there.
That's a pretty good move by Howell. He's somewhat down the inside.
Yes, indeed, as Peter again trying to line up Gonzalez for pass. Potentially as Gabriel comes in now to get his damage repaired, and maybe a change of strategy. We'll have to wait and see. We don't have any fuel. We don't have a fuel graphic up on here, but we do have an indicator for when somebody does pair. As I look up for Gonzalez, that could give Peter the chance, and Peter takes full advantage, and Peter retakes the lead of the race.
Yeah, that is a massive slip up by Gonzalez there. He's just, even though he tried to defend there, but he got a little bit too wide and just locked up the brakes. And yeah, that's a massive mistake by Gonzalez, but not to worry. I think he might get one back on the banking, I think, Joe. But sorry for interrupting.
We'll have to see though, because it looks like Peter's trying to grab him there, but all this is done is allowed De Barros to catch up. But it looks like he's now starting to fall back again as they now make their way towards the banking. But let's see, can Gonzalez potentially try and catch back up as they make their way through the banking now? Then so through the banked corner we will go before making their way down the straight. But it doesn't look like that Gonzalez is close enough for the passes. Peter now sets a fast lap of 1:12.853, but that gets beaten quickly by Colossus. There's some side-by-side action in the background, I think, there, but it looks like he's tucked back into the slipstream there, as it looks like a freeway scrap, in fact, for 5th between Thompson, Fitzwater, and Gomez there. As meantime, Holloway trying to get back at Howell, but Howell saying no to that indeed, as they now make their way through the first corner. As Papera there gets by on Larosa, as Lucian is at the back of the field as a result, as we just see there that Yuri Gabriel has just come back from the pits with a lot to do from that position, as they now make their way through the hairpin. But the top 3 very, very close together in these opening laps, Sir Blake.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, Joe. And and also at the back there, Fitzwater actually struggled. Joe. Whilst you focused on the first lap, I just saw Fitzwater just kind of struggling through the second sector. So Fitzwater doesn't have the race pace compared to his qualifying pace. Joe. So yeah.
Indeed, but meanwhile we can see that Beat is starting to gap a little bit, as it looks like the Holloway there may have made a little error. In fact, he's still locking up. It looks like he's struggling with the brakes there. It's now going to put him prey to Simon Mutka now. Then there's Mutka in the Carlin car, right in the slipstream now. Toby Holloway, could he probably punish him into the banked corner as they go side by side? And I think he's already got the move done. Yes, he has. Mutka up into 12th position. Volker's not had a very good start. He's down to 14th position from the start of the race, and it looks like his teammate may have even jumped him at the start as well, as Holloway tries to get Mutka back into the first corner after that overtake into the banking. Can he take P12 again from the Polish driver into the first corner? And yes, he can. Holloway retakes the place there as Volker loses another place, this time to Balint Zolga. It looks like Volker's struggling so far on this stint.
Yes, indeed, Joe. I don't know, maybe we must have been the cluster at the start that forced slides to drop down a couple of positions, but right now Flo is definitely not on the pace. And right now there's a train going on and Zachary leading the way.
Zachary Fitzwater leading his own version of the Fitzwater train. It's also brought Zorback into it. It's Gomez again.
Whoa!
Trying to look in.
I thought Fitzwater's going to go off into the wall there. God, that's scary.
Yeah. That did there, but anyway, still holding up a massive train which involves, as mentioned earlier, Gomez and a few other cars as well. Zorback involved in there. I think Kirby's involved in that train as well. De Barros continuing to lose time meanwhile to Robino Gonzalez, but still got a bit of a gap between himself and the 4th place driver behind him. I'm not quite sure who that is at the moment. We'll double check underneath in a bit. As Gomez is going to try and go for Fitzwater into the banking if he can. As they go side by side through into the banking, Peter sets the fastest lap. Fitzwater's just going to hold on and running outside, but Gomez is going to get the slipstream potentially going into the first corner unless he's backed up a bit too much. No, back in the slipstream. Meanwhile, behind as well, some more side-by-side action as well. Looks like Zorback's having to fend off a little bit. Gomez on the inside of Fitzwater. He gets a move done into P6 as Zorback, as Kirby now takes 8th place from Zorback there. So 2 overtakes into the first corner.
Yeah, one of the Chip Ganassis are definitely off pace to the other. Due to Kirby, he's definitely crawling back the pace once. Okay, what's the word? Once he once had. There we go.
Yes, indeed. And just to point out, it's Joa Pedro Kirby, not Dudu Kirby. Dudu's the one who's retired from the OC. So anyway, speaking of Kirby, he's now going to try and have a go at his teammate. Nearly close to contact there between the 2 Chip Ganassis. That's not what they want to do. Of course, we've already seen 2 teammates collide in the race today. That will be from the 2 Viper racing cars. And I'm pretty sure Chip Ganassi don't want to do that. But it's put Zorback back onto the gearbox now of Kirby. And they're also dragging along. I think that's the other Carlin. In fact, that's Frederick Soper who's trying to get himself involved there. So Soper so far having a good race up in the top 10. Whereas his teammate Muka currently stuck in a bit of a train himself at the moment. Zorback now trying to get hold of Kirby now back onto the banking, but Kirby saying no to that, and as a result there's a bit of a gap between them at the moment as Kirby struggles to get onto the back of his teammate as Gonzalez still keeping within touching distance at Peter, but it looks like so far Peter has got it covered in this first stint.
Yes indeed, Joe. Gonzalez has definitely made a costly mistake by walking up into 9 and 10, but I think Ferrari has some other idea as well. I mean, by Ferrari, I hope they don't use the Formula 1 strategists.
We'll have to wait and see, of course. We are expecting a 2-stop race for one of these drivers. As mentioned, we don't have any fuel on the screen, but we do get an indicator when somebody's pitting on the right-hand side, as we saw in qualifying yesterday. Today I should say. I'm too used to qualifying and the race being on different days. I do apologise. But anyway, meantime, Holloway trying to re-overtake Howell at the moment. It looks like Howell is doing his own version of the Zachary Fitzwater team. Ironic that both of them have a similar livery as well, even though they're both for different teams. But Howell creating his own version of the Fitzwater train at the moment.
Yeah, Joe. Yeah. And Simon Lutker is definitely behind his former PTC's colleague Holloway.
And looks like he's trying to line him up for a pass potentially into the banking. Can he try and get his wing in front before he backs off there? They're still going to continue side by side going down into the straight there and making sure that Holloway didn't go into the wall there. But it's still going to go side by side going into the first corners. Meantime, a battle going on there between Zorback and Fitzwater. As now down the inside goes Mutka. Can he get the move done on Holloway? Holloway still sticking with it as Volker re-overtakes Zolga, that is, for P14. And up into 12th now goes Mutka.
I thought I was going with for a second there. Sorry guys, I thought I was going with that was Olga.
Gomez currently up in 6th place at the moment. So far 1-6 for the 2 Andretti cars as Peter beginning again to gap himself between himself and Gonzalez at this moment in time as Zorback continues his fight with Fitzwater.
He's going to throw inside, no he hasn't.
He has not, and actually unseen by the cameras, in fact, Kirby's actually overtaken Fitzwater. So Kirby up into 7th place now then, so a bit of a switch there between the 2 Chip Ganassi drivers. Meantime, we're now running on board with Sam Thompson, who's actually trying to close up on De Barros' teammate, that being Bartus Kloss.
Yes, indeed, Joe.
It's De Barros now then, just having a bit of a lonely race at the moment. Meantime, back to this battle for 8th as Zorback again, trying to get Fitzwater through the banking now. They might have actually got it done, in fact. Oh, no, he hasn't, because Fitzwater having a little bit more driver on the outside there. As Zorback got enough slip to try and get him back. It doesn't look like he has it. It looks like, again, Fitzwater is just going to hold on for the moment. There's side-by-side action in the background. But Zorback, in fact, trying to do a late move there, but Fitzwater covers it off pretty well there into the first corner. As meantime, Lucian on the inside of Kim Sung-min now then, and Lucian gets up into 16th in the Peugeot, and it looks like Papero wants a piece of him as well, as again, Yuri Gabriel trying to catch back up to the pack after he sustained damage on the first lap, as meanwhile Zolga taking a little bit of a wider line there compared to Florian Volker, as Volker now tries to get onto the back of Holloway, but yeah, terrible start for Florian Volker, it's fair to say, Blake.
Yeah, indeed, I don't know what happened there, and also at the front, there is Zorback trying to throw it down the inside again, and it didn't work, just like the last time. He just keeps trying to throw it down the inside, but He needs to be. I think Zorback needs to be a little bit more patient. To be honest, Joe. He's currently trying to fight with. He's trying to fight Zachary Fitzwater in the least possible overtaking opportunities. But in turn, he's going to let the Polish driver going to catch up. And here comes Zorback going down the inside to the banking, but to no avail. So Zorback needs to be a little bit more patient with Zachary Fitzwater, to be honest, Joe. Like I said,
Yeah, Zorback just really, I think just getting a little bit impatient, really, in that BMW at the moment. He just needs to be a little bit more patient. All this is doing, as you can see behind, he's bringing Frederik Soper into that fight as well. As meantime, Holloway going a bit defensive there, as he's having to fend off from Florian Volker. Meanwhile, back on board with Peter, who's opened the gap now between himself and Robino Gonzalez to 2.2 seconds at the moment. It looks like it's it looks like a 3-second gap between Gonzalez and De Barros, judging for that, because I think it was 1 second between himself and Kloss, looking at that a little bit earlier on. But Igor doing well in this first stint at the moment in the Andretti car, and just trying to drive to the first pit stops in this race. And again, Zorback all over the back of Fitzwater at the meantime. Didn't go for a dive bomb like we saw on the previous at that time by, so maybe he's starting to calm himself down a little bit, but it all really depends on how he approaches this banking to give us an indicator, or whether he's trying to be a little bit more patient in trying to pass the Australian right now then. Both of them, of course, looking to redeem themselves after tricky previous seasons. But anyway, as Zorback just making his way through the second to last corner, will he try and go for the banking again? He is going to go for the banking, but can he get himself just in front of Fitzwater before the end of the banking? As they're still going to remain side by side, but again, Fitzwater with just a drive coming out of the exit of that banking now then, and this is just frustrating Nico and more, getting back in the slipstream now of the Australian, as now Zorback again. Can he get the move this time by? He goes to the inside of the first corner, but again, Fitzwater just covers him off. This is just more frustration for the German.
Yeah, indeed, Joe. And back, TJ's trying to overtake Kim Sung Min. Ow! God! I just hit something. God, my head.
Careful. Anyway, question from Sana in the chat. Has there been a Korean drivers before me in Sung Min? Yes, there has been. We had a South Korean driver by the name of Jonathan Wong in the series back in 2014, I think it was. I might be wrong on that season, but we have had South Korean drivers before you two. So, yeah, you're not the first. So, although he hasn't been in the series for quite a while. I think it was a one-season wonder, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, as now coming around the hairpins now, then we will go. As again, Zorback still stuck behind Fitzwater at this point in time. Bartus again just bringing a comfortable gap between himself and Kloss. Kloss still managing the gap pretty well between himself and Sam Thompson. Maybe that could be something in the pit stop. And again, Zorback just going for the banking again. But can he get the move done this time? He's actually was a little bit ahead. But again, Fitzwater just having a little bit more drive than Zorback. And all this is doing, as mentioned earlier, is just bringing Simon Mutka closer to the pair of them at the moment. And again, Zorback just getting a little bit impatient, really, and he really needs to be careful because he doesn't want to let his impatience get in the way. Meantime, Holloway trying to get back on Jordan Howe, who is again looks like unseen by the cameras. In fact, Mutka has actually passed him, so up into P11 goes Simon Mutka. So P10 and 11 for the two Carlin cars at the moment. So it looks like Mutka is on the move, and it looks like Soper is now on the back of that battle for P8, and he might even bring his teammate into that.
Yeah, calling the backup team. We need a little assistance here. Zorback is trying to... like I said before, he's just starting to get a little bit more impatient by the time goes on. But all it's doing is just bringing the Polish driver of Zorback even closer.
It's also bringing his teammate as well into it. So both the Polish Carlin drivers starting to get into that fight for P8 at the moment. Let's see, will Zorback again try and go for the move into the banking as they make their way through the second to last corner? And again, he's going to try again into this banking. He still feels he can get the move done through into there, but I just think it's just going to be the same story. But in fact, he's actually going to stick with him this time. Zorback is actually just found a little bit more this time by, but again, it looks like Fitzwater's got the edge down the straight compared to Zorback, unless Zorback can get later on the brakes compared to the Australian. Down into the first corner, and again, Fitzwater with just brilliant defensive masterclass at the moment. As meantime, Zolga is just overtaking Holloway, and yes, he has. Up into P13 goes Zolga. As unseen by the cameras, he actually re-overtook Volker in the process, hence why he's now up into 13th.
Yeah, Zolga's definitely on the pace with the BMW Ranger behind him. Well, compared to his teammate, who's kind of struggling against the against Zachary Fitzwater.
Yeah, indeed. And as mentioned earlier, is Zorback just starting to get a little bit frustrated? I don't know. As we're back with a battle again, as the two Carlins just wait patiently, but it looks like they're having their own battle at the moment of both Soper and Mutka. So probably the pair and fighting for top 10 position. And Howell again having to fend off because Zolga is trying to attack him. I got the two of them mixed up there. Luckily, their prefixes is different, so we can tell who's who here because they both have the first three letters that being the same as their three-letter prefix. As now, meantime, again, will Zorback again go for the banking because it looks like as well behind Mutka might try and get Soper into the banking as well. Zorback again on the inside of Fitzwater going through the banking, and again same story. Fitzwater just has the edge on him, and I think it was the same story there between the two Carlins behind. But Zorback already back in the slipstream, and Fitzwater may have caught the Australian on the wares there. Is this going to be the move this time for the German? Danny inside, and finally Zorback up into P8. As meantime Mutka has just got by on Soper there, but finally Zorback is up into 8th.
Yeah, finally after like 5 to 7 laps of him being stuck behind the BMW, he's finally passed him. But Zorga has definitely got the pace at the moment. He might even close up to this battle. And meanwhile, this is close to De Barros as well as the British driver. Wait, what's his name again? The Ferrari?
Thompson in P5, and he's also dragged along Gabriel Gomez as well. Meantime, it looks like Yuri Gabriel has just been lapped by the race leader Igor Peter. I was speaking there, but the two Penske's now fighting for P number 3. Kloss wanting to get in front of his teammate now. Then as it goes side by side, meantime Gomez looking for a way through on Thompson through the banking. Kloss wasn't able to get the move done, and Norco Gomez on Thompson there. Bit of a gap now then between the two Penske drivers as they make their way through the first corner. Again, the same can be said for Thompson and Gomez, but it looks like we've now got a four-way scrap for third position. As now, meantime, Mutka looking to pass Fitzwater at the moment. Fitzwater looks like he's struggling on this stint, and Mutka trying to line him up again, potentially going into the first corner as the Polish driver lines up Fitzwater. He goes to the inside. Can Mutka get himself into P9? He's having a brilliant race so far, Simon Mutka, as he goes Danny inside, and that's the move complete. Mutka up into 9th position. I should point out as well, it's the top 10 who get points in this as well. It's the same point system as the top class with slight tweaks as well. You do get a pole point as well as mentioned for pole position. So Igor Peter has already got that one. And the fastest lap bonus point, anybody can get it. It doesn't necessarily restrict people. The top 10, Kloss makes a mistake. Can Thompson make his way through? Side by side, no he can't. But that was near disaster there for Bartus Kloss there, Blake.
Yes, indeed. He's definitely hit the back of the bar because he's frustrated. I want to see how close Thompson was to crashing into Kloss.
Yes, indeed, but just couldn't take full advantage of that. But now Kloss has put himself under pressure now from the Ferrari of Sam Thompson. But it looks like he's going to start to gap him again as Thompson and Gomez might start to resume their fight for P5. But can Thompson just potentially get a bit of slipstream from Kloss? Let's see. Through the second to last corner, he will now go now then. But it looks like he's going to have to worry about Gomez because again, Gomez having a lot. But Thompson, it looked like he covered it that time by as they go around the banking. But Gomez could make the move. Thompson's just stuck behind Kloss. That could give Gomez a turn. It's going to be free wide. It was briefly free wide there. Could Gomez potentially get 2 places in the space of 1 into the first corner? And you know what? Yes, he has. Brilliant stuff from Gabriel Gomez. He's gained 2 places there. And looks like Thompson might try and go around the outside of Kloss. Can he do that? No. Kloss holds on, but 2 places there for Gomez. Brilliant stuff from the Brazilian.
That was a brilliant overtake by Gomez. That's why he's that's why Gomez is one of the best drivers on the grid at the moment. But yeah, Gomez is definitely not a slouch.
We're going to have a look at that again because that was just brilliant stuff. Perfect timing there from the 2017 DTM champion. As let's have a look here. So again, it looks like Thompson comes off. Thompson was trying to look to the outside and was basically caught away. So Gomez is like, you know what? I'm going to slip to the inside here. And whilst I'm at it, because I've got the momentum, might try and have a go at Kloss as well. So he already got Thompson there because Thompson basically got himself stuck there behind Kloss. Couldn't have anywhere to go. Gomez uses that to their advantage, breaks that a little bit later than Kloss and says, thank you very much. I'm taking those 2 places.
I just sent it.
Yes, indeed. And he's now up into 4th position and now looking to try and chase down his fellow compatriot Bruno De Barros as Thompson and Kloss start to continue their fight for 5th position. Meantime, Holloway has now got by on Howell, so he's up into P13 as the 2 McLarens look to be struggling at this point because Volker is also going backwards because unseen by the cameras, Lucian has also got by him as well. So that's pretty much that then really. But as I was saying, top 10 get points and fastest lap point can go to anyone. It doesn't restrict people from the top 10, so any position, anybody can get the fastest lap point and also the pole point as well. So, and also, unlike in BTCC, as we've got a pit stop, the first pit stop of the day in the form of Robino Gonzalez. So the first pit stop of the day, and it looks like more mechanics are out as well. Some other mechanics as well, but Gonzalez is the first of the leaders to pit.
I think Gonzalez is definitely going to go for the undercut against Igor Peter, and I bet the mechanics at Penske, or am I just getting it wrong?
This is the Ferrari we're looking at here for Gonzalez.
Oh.
I'm not sure who the mechanics are for this, but
yeah.
Gonzalez has had to wait for whoever it is. I think it's JP Kirby. It is Kirby. Kirby is the one he had to wait for, and that is not going to do the Spaniard any favours at all.
Yes, indeed. What is called for Joe?
Anyway, as Gonzalez now, let's see who he rejoins. No problems for Kirby, but for Gonzalez, he's not going to be happy about that, as Kim Sung-min is also coming to the pits this lap as well. Meantime, Gomez and De Barros, both of them are not pitting this lap, but they're going to be battling for P2. Probably will be P3, maybe could be even P2 because of how much Gonzalez got held up in the pits, but we'll have to wait and see on that, as now they make their way through into the hairpin now then. So yeah, and I was going to say, unlike in BTCC, we only have 2 challenges to work on. Again, I get into Toby Holloway now. A puncher for Toby Holloway. So we've got our first mechanical failure in World Champ Car, and it comes in the form of Toby Holloway, who's got a puncher in this. So 3 retirements we're now at, and Toby Holloway has retired with a puncher. So yeah, it was a bit of a mediocre race for Toby, fair to say, and it's come to an end quite early, Blake.
Yeah. The Toby's just continuing his misery from last season. Last season he ended his season with a DNF, and he's just continuing that with he's just continuing his misery just by a puncture.
Yes, indeed, and it just happened right there, in fact. He might have already damaged the suspension just coming out of turn 4 there, but maybe the banking might have had something to do with it. I'm not suggesting 2005 vibes, more 2004 vibes. I'm more suggesting 2004 vibes, because unlike in 2005, we've actually got a race, actually an actual race happening. So just thought I would point that one out. But anyway, Gomez unable to pass the Barros that time by as they just go around the yellow flag section. But again, I'll try again without being interrupted. We have 2 championships this time as opposed to 3. There is no manufacturer's championship. It's just a drivers and a team's championship. That's all you need to know. Meantime, Florian Volker is just coming into the pits for McLaren, so he's making his first pit stop. As Soper, meanwhile, has just overtaken Zolga, it looks like. So Soper has got up into 9th position, unless those two have just been fighting for a while. I might be wrong on that. It doesn't matter. But anyway, as Thompson's coming into the pits this lap, I do believe that's his indicator to come into the pits, unless I might be wrong on that. But I think Thompson is coming into the pit. It will be, in fact, because his teammate is already pitted. So yeah, so Thompson is pitting this lap as we look at the 2 Brazilians continuing to fight for 2nd place, as Volker meanwhile rejoins in 17th in the McLaren. As meantime, Gomez on the back of De Barros. It looks like De Barros is going to cover him off there, which he does. But could Gomez try and get him now into turn 2? Could he get the momentum if they've got some... They've got some traffic in the front for Yuri Gabriel, but now Gomez going to the inside. He's coming to the pits this lap as Thompson is now into the pits, but it looks like De Barros is using Yuri Gabriel's slipstream to keep himself in front. Very good clever thinking there from Bruno De Barros, but Mutka is in, as is Thompson. So we've got 2 cars in the pits right now as the 2 continue to fight for 2nd place, as they're having to negotiate some traffic at the moment from Yuri Gabriel as De Barros gets by his fellow compatriot. Or does he? His compatriot's not making it easy for him. The 3 Brazilians here not making it easy for themselves. Could Gomez try and slip his way through? Nope, De Barros gets through pretty well there. Can Gomez slip himself through as well? Yes, he can. And now the battle continues, but it won't matter anyway, as mentioned, because Gomez is coming into the pits this lap as Thompson rejoins in 12th. Where does Mutka come out on track? We'll keep an eye out on the bottom of your screen. In fact, no, we won't, but we're going back to him. Mutka comes out in 16th position in the car lane, so rejoining in P16 will go the Polish driver. But as mentioned earlier, Gomez is coming into the pits this lap for Andretti, as he's on the back of De Barros. Maybe he'll want to try and jump him in the pits. De Barros is going to stay out at least an extra lap, as Gomez now comes into the pits for Andretti. This needs to be a crucial stop, Blake, if he wants to jump Bruno.
Indeed, everyone at the moment is trying to go for an undercut compared to the other teams who are in a good position and trying to overcut everyone. And this is a pit stop, so nobody's there. Or there is. I mean, there is somebody. Are they going to get held up? Waiting for.
So he takes on some fuel. 8.5 seconds to stop is for Gabriel Gomez. And JP Kirby was wondering in the stream chat why the pit stops are quite long. It's because there's actually refueling in this, I believe. So there is refueling in this mod. So unlike in the top class where it's just a tyre change, this has refueling in it. So as meantime, Frederick Soper, a lap after his teammate is just pitted, he now comes into the pits. It's Lucien on the inside of Howell. Can the Frenchman get the move done as he's pitting his lap? And yes, he can. It's up into a temporary P7. But as mentioned, he's coming to the pits his lap as Gomez. Looks like he's been... It looks like Thompson has jumped him, in fact, or was he behind Thompson? No, he was in front of him, wasn't he? Because he had the double overtake. So
Yes, he
Thompson
was.
has actually re-overtaken him again in the pits.
Yes, that was great thinking by Ferrari, but that was great thinking by Ferrari. He undercutted Gomez. So basically, the undercut is very powerful here at Indianapolis. Thompson is just trying to defend his teammate Gonzalez as long as he can.
Thompson has already pitted, so we could be looking at a double podium for Ferrari because there is a chance that these two could actually jump to Barros when he pits. So we'll have to wait and see on that as they make their way through the hairpins now then. And is the Barros in this lap? No, he stayed out a little bit longer. In fact, he's still going out a little bit longer. Same goes for his teammate Bartus Bracky. The Penske's going out for quite a bit around this track. And who knows where Australia is. As Lucian, as mentioned, is coming into the pits. They might have distracted Howell a little bit, though, because Gonzalez wants to take full advantage. But Howell says no to that. But, of course, Gonzalez does have the fresher tyres, so it should be pretty easy for the Spaniard as he now looks to the inside going into the first corner. And it should be a pretty easy move for Robino Gonzalez down the inside. And, yes, it is. Gonzalez up into 7th place. Of course, a few more cars left to pit as Gomez wasn't able to get Thompson that time by. Thompson covering off pretty well as Volker is now onto the back of this is one of the Carlin cars. I believe this is Simon Mutka. He's trying to get by here. Was it Soper? It's Soper, in fact. So Volker tried to have a go in the banking, but Soper covers him off there. There's a few more cars in the pits. Larosa and Papero are in the pits. Meanwhile, as you can see on the bottom of your screen there, as they now make their way through into the first few corners. The Barros again. Will he come into the pits next lap? Let's see. He just comes around the final corner now then in the Penske. No, he won't. As Gomez again trying to attack Thompson for P9 now then. All this could be doing is potentially helping the Barros stay in front of these guys and maybe even stay in front of Gomez. Because in fact, look at it. Sorry, not Gomez. Because looking at this, in fact, I was going to say, it looks like Howell is going to be holding up these two, and he's not pitting for a while. Meantime, Fitzwater comes into the pits for Chip Ganassi, so Zachary Fitzwater, he's now into the pits himself. Thompson tries to have a go at Howell into the banking. Down the inside he goes. He doesn't get the move done. Could that bring Gomez back into play? Comes Gomez. Could he take full advantage now then of Thompson? He's going to go to the inside. Or can Thompson potentially use Howell's slipstream to stay in front as Gomez goes to the inside of Thompson? Side by side they go now then into the first corner. Can Gomez get late on the brakes? He's trying to go later on the brakes. They're going to remain side by side going through into turn 2. Can Gomez hang it around the outside? And yes, he can. Gomez re-overtakes Thompson and gets revenge after getting jumped by him in the pits.
Yes, indeed, Joe. But indeed, the strategy can have some serious consequences if you play your cards right. I mean, sure, you can. You can undercut anybody, but the problem is we're going to be on older tires compared to the team behind. But Howell's just holding up Gomez a lot. So this might be the same story again.
Potentially, as we look back at Peter, but De Barros is now into the pits. Bruno De Barros into the pits. Now, this is important. Can he get out in front of both Thompson and Gomez? That is going to be the question. Where is Gomez and Thompson? They're still stuck behind Howell, who is still yet to pit on their own. And Thompson back on the prowl of Gomez. Is De Barros going to get back in front of these guys? Let's see. As Thompson again tries to attack Gomez into the banking now. Then down the inside goes Thompson, and I think he's re-overtaken him. Yes, he has. Thompson re-overtakes Gomez into the banking there, but where is De Barros? De Barros is just coming out of the pit lane now then. This is going to be close between the pair, but I think De Barros might just have the edge. Let's see. There he is, and De Barros is still just in front of these guys. So De Barros, luckily for those two, thanks to Howell, De Barros has stayed in front of the pair of them. So I think De Barros has got to thank Howell for that one.
Yes, indeed. And now there's some people going to be complaining. Okay, not bad.
I don't think the Ferrari and the Andretti mechanics are going to be happy about that one because they saw a chance there to potentially jump to Barros, and because of Howell, it hasn't worked out there. And again, the pair of them still stuck behind Howell, who I don't think is obviously still yet to pit yet, but I don't think he's going to be pitting this lap. As Thompson maybe trying to go for it into the left-hander, and he has done, not wasting any time. And I think that's apart from a mistake we've seen earlier, that's the first proper overtake we've seen as Kloss and Zorback are now into the pits.
Yes, indeed, and Kloss is just changing the tyres quickly and ready for the car to get jacked and ready to go. But I think Gonzalez has played his cards right compared to his teammate. He's got completely held up by Howell.
Yes, indeed. As Zorback, as mentioned in the pits, as Gomez again trying to have a go at Howell, but again, Gomez just can't seem to find a way through on the McLaren at the moment as they now make their way down the straight. And Kloss, meanwhile, I think is going to rejoin behind these guys, in fact. So Kloss, I think, is going to stay behind, unlike Thompson. So Kloss staying behind these guys, and he rejoins in 8th position. But if Gomez gets held up any further, he could take it full advantage of this, as Zolga is coming into the pits this lap. Peter, meanwhile, he hasn't pitted yet. I don't know when he's going to be pitting, but we'll see. As meantime, Lucien has actually just gone by. In fact, speaking of Peter, he's now into the pits. The race leader, Igor Peter, is in the pits now then. So, as meantime, Volker will try and get Lucien back into the first corner if he can. And side by side they go. Can Volker re-overtake Lucien into the first corner? And the answer to that is yes. He retakes 14th there. But as mentioned, Igor Peter is now into the pits. He should still come out comfortably in the lead, I would think.
Maybe, but remember this pit lane is very long, so this might be a win or lose situation for Igor Peter. We need to have a look at where Zolga is actually.
Yes, indeed, as Zolga is now coming into the pits.
I think made a blunder here.
As Peter rejoins, still in the lead. So that's that really. And Gonzalez still quite a long way behind Peter. Peter has got maybe you could argue a bigger gap before the first pit stops. As meantime, Kloss has just got by on Gomez down the banking as Howell finally comes into the pit. But Kloss is taking advantage to take P6. But can Gomez getting back into the first corner as revenge as they go side by side through into the first corner now. Then side by side go the Brazilian and the Polish driver through into turn 1. Can Gomez retake the place from Kloss? And the answer to that is no. Kloss has actually got the move done. So costly there for Gomez. Howell has definitely been a headache for him.
Indeed, Howe has definitely made Gomez's race even worse. But however, this race is not over yet, and Igor Peter's getting held up by Gabriel for the second time. Yeah, second time of the day.
But luckily for him, he had plenty of time to get by him anyway, given that before that sector, he had nearly a 12-second cushion between himself and Bruno Gonzalez. But Peter, so far, as long as there's no mistakes so far, the race is falling pretty nicely for him at the moment. But still, there is a long way to go in this race, and we haven't reached the halfway point in this race just yet. As meantime, Thompson is starting to gain a bit on De Barros. The gap now 1.2 seconds. Of course, Thompson, De Barros has fresher tyres, but Thompson lapping quicker than him at the moment. So it looks like De Barros might be struggling on this stint as well, Blake.
Yes, indeed, Joe. It doesn't mean the fresher tyres means that you can instantly get you can have quicker pace. It's just you need to warm up the tyres a little bit just to get going. But I think De Barros didn't do that, so I think that's gonna be a headache for him.
Yes, indeed. Meantime, Yuri Gabriel, who we saw Igor Peter just lap a little bit earlier, is now coming to the pits. It'll be the second time he comes into the pits, because let's not forget he had damage on the first lap. So that's going to be that. As meantime, Volker and Lucien again continuing to fight. These two keep trading places at the moment. As Volker, unseen by the cameras, we saw he overtook him, but it looks like Lucien is going to try and re-overtake him into the first corner here. The French rookie on the inside. Can he overtake the 5-time top class champion? And yes, he can. So back up to 13th goes Lucien, as they are now coming up towards the back of somebody else at the moment. So this might turn into a free cost lap for 12, and it is. It's Frederick Soper they're coming up to behind. As meantime, after the pit stops, Fitzwater now finds himself out of the points, I believe.
Yes, indeed.
As meantime, it looks like the Kirby and Zorback are fighting at the moment. As meantime, Larosa is actually trying to unlap himself here from Peter. So, but Peter's saying no to that. But if the traffic is going to keep on affecting him a bit too much there, who knows? It might help Gonzalez a tiny bit. Who knows, really? But yeah, that's that, really. But it looks like Peter is now starting to get away a little bit now from Larosa, so it's not going to matter too much. The gap's still nearly 12 seconds between the pair of them so far. As meantime, the gap still 1.2 between De Barros and Thompson. So it looks like him catching up with De Barros has slowed down just a little bit. But so far, second and fourth for the two Ferraris. They'll be happy with that. As meantime, Zorback has passed Kirby. Unseen by the cameras, Zorback is now overtaking Kirby and gets up into 7th place. So that's another place gain for the German driver, as these two once again continue to fight for 13th position. Volker and the rookie Lucien again fighting for 13th position, but this time Lucien saying no to that. But still, despite these two fighting, they're still continuing to close up to Soper at the moment.
Yes, indeed.
Meantime, as Zorback just gets by on Yuri Gabriel there, he's got up into 7th. So far, pretty decent race for Nico, and who knows really, this could be his redemption season, Blake.
Yes, indeed. Wait. Who are we talking about again? Because I kind of lost.
Zorback, the one who we're riding on board with.
Zorback. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, he could redeem himself this season, but yeah, it's going to take a lot of effort just to redeem himself. I mean, if you want to be redeemed, you need to show it, and Zorback is currently trying to show it.
Yes, indeed. As meantime, this free-car scrap for 12th position still continues on. As they will now make their way towards the section of corners. Now coming around the second to last corners, and now make their way towards the banking now then. And it looks like Lucien might start to line up Soper very soon. I don't think he's close enough this time, but maybe on the next lap he could think about a potential pass for 12th position. And he's obviously the only Peugeot left in the race because, of course, a little bit earlier on we saw that Toby Holloway retired thanks to a puncture. And that makes him, of course, the only Peugeot as mentioned earlier, as we've had 3 retirements so far in this race. Toby Holloway, who retired with a puncture, as mentioned, and, of course, the other 2 retirements being Bartus Bracky and Thomas Cassidy, both crashing out on the first lap. And, of course, that led to Yuri Gabriel pitting for damage as Mutka and Kirby are now fighting for 8th position now then. And it looks like on this thing, the Chip Ganassis might be struggling here, Blake.
Yes, indeed. Judah Kirby is currently struggling at the moment compared to Simon Mutka, which is right up his chop at the moment. Mutka is... Okay, we'll just do this. Mutka is definitely going to go side by side with Kirby, and no. But at the moment, yeah, the Chip Ganassis are definitely struggling for pace in the race compared to qualifying, I must say.
Yeah, indeed, and it seems that their race pace at the moment seems to be a little bit off at the moment. Meantime, Lucien, back to this battle for 12th, is now on the inside of Simon Mutka, and he's already got the move done through into the banking, but Soper, not Mutka, it's the other Carlin, but can Soper potentially try and get him back down the straight? The 2 rookies now then going side by side, going into the first corner. Can Soper retake the place from Alex-Eric Lucien through into the first corner? And yes, he can. So Lucien will have to try again if he wants to get that place back, and he's also got to worry about Volker as well, who's still in that scrap for 12th position, but the McLaren's clearly struggling at the moment, down in 14th and 15th so far, as we now look back at Robino Gonzalez. He's just having a lonely race at the moment in second place. As again, Kirby having to fend off from Simon Mutka, and Mutka just giving Kirby a bit of a hard time at the moment. And who knows really, could Mutka try and get Joe Pedro Kirby this time by? We will have to wait and see, as the gap just under 14 seconds now between Peter and Gonzalez. Peter again continuing to increase that gap out in front at the moment and continuing to dominate this race so far. But meanwhile, Mutka not going for the move in the banking. He's actually going to play it smart and potentially wait down the straight and trying to get a little bit more speed coming off the banking. He now goes onto the inside as we've got an engine fire in the back, and it's Yuri Gabriel. Gabriel's miserable race comes to an end, but meanwhile, just in front, has Mutka got the move done down the inside? And yes, he has. Mutka up into 8th position, but that's race over for Yuri Gabriel and the 4th time of the day. And, well, as mentioned, Blake, his miserable race finally coming to an end.
Yes, that's a bit unfortunate for Yuri Gabriel. I mean, he's just had enough of it, really. And oh my Christ, that's actually a dangerous place to park, actually.
The marshals will get that one sorted out, as unseen by the cameras. In fact, just before the yellow flags came out, Lucien has actually finally got by on Soper, so he's now up into 12. We saw that Soper there was trying to be passing him into turn 1, but had to back out of it because of the yellow flags there. So Lucien keeping hold of 12th position there, but we are now at the halfway point in the race, and as mentioned earlier, that means both Vipers are out of the race. So that's 2 Mercedes powered drivers out. Obviously, the first one was not a mechanical failure, that was caused by a crash, but not a brilliant opening weekend for Viper Racing indeed, Blake.
Yes, indeed. Viper Racing is obviously funded by Mercedes / Monster, but I don't think I would be going too happy with that. They're definitely going to get a bollocking after the race.
Indeed, Viper Racing, of course, making their return to racing in the OC fraternity for the first time since 2014. Not the start that they were looking for, and as a result, they're not going to get classified in the constructors after this race as well. Not the constructors, the teams championship, because they didn't finish the race. Meantime, we just saw on the bottom there, Volker, unseen by the cameras, has actually just got by on Frederick Soper there. So Florian Volker making his way up into 13th position. He'll now try and chase back after Alex-Eric Lucien, who's been battling with for quite a while on this stint. So that'll be something to look forward to. Is meantime Thompson just keeping the gap consistent between himself and Bruno De Barros, not really gaining on him too much. So maybe just trying to keep up to him, because as mentioned earlier, we are expecting this to be a 2-stop race. So we've not got to the second round of pit stops just yet at the moment. But who knows what lap they could be coming. Maybe I think about after lap 40, I would imagine, Blake, you would say.
Yeah, yes indeed. I think they're really most likely going to put our... this is when they're going to have so much strategy and just being just all over the place. So I think Ferrari needs to do something, otherwise, Gonzalez getting a corner by the
That was Larosa making life a little bit difficult for from Gonzalez there. I don't think Gonzalez will be pretty happy about that, but it's not like he's got much to lose at the moment, because Gonzalez is running, as mentioned earlier, in a pretty lonely second place at the moment. And, well, there's this guy, Igor Peter, in the Halfords. Andretti continues to pull the gap a little bit further, and he will pull away a little bit more, in fact, as a result of that little hold-up that Gonzalez had. It was 16.2 seconds a little bit earlier on, and we will see what that gap is like very soon. The gap, 2.9 seconds between Gonzalez and De Barros. You'd imagine that De Barros would have gained just a little bit as a result of Gonzalez being held up a little bit there by the back marker of Francesca Larosa, but... yeah, that's that really. As things are starting to settle down, potentially just a little bit at the moment, as it seems that they're all trying to make their way towards the second round of pit stops. As you can see, we'll look at the gap between De Barros and Thompson. Meanwhile, 1.2, it just keeps on going up and down at the moment in the pair of them. It's sometimes 1.3, maybe sometimes 1.1, but looks like both of them are lapping about the same sort of pace at the moment, Blake.
It's moving up and down, it's at the side like a roller coaster.
And we've got a copyright strike. No, I'm joking. I wouldn't imagine that. Any music companies would be paying that much attention to a stream like this. But you never know, of course. I don't think we've included any music in this. But anyway, we're getting off topic. So anyway, as meanwhile, then we've just passed the halfway point. Might as well look at the top 10 at the moment. It is Peter who currently leads the way at the moment by nearly 17 seconds ahead of Gonzalez in second. Bruno De Barros is just trying to negotiate Francesca Larosa in third, followed by Sam Thompson in fourth position. And then in P number 5, it should come up in just a little bit. As well, in fact, whilst we're speaking there, because of that little bit of traffic, looks like Gomez is starting to gain a little bit again onto these two. I would have thought Thompson would have gained a little bit onto Barros there, but it looks like he's now having his own trouble with Larosa. But in fact, he might start to close on him now, because I think he's got a tiny bit of slipstream there, but obviously not close enough to make a pass. In fact, it's actually under a second now as a result of that little hold up there. But as mentioned, Peter first, Gonzalez in second, De Barros third, Thompson in fourth, with Gomez in fifth position. Kloss is in 6th, with Zorback in 7th, Mclaren in 8th, Kirby in 9th, and Zolga so far rounding out the top 10 at this point in time. We've had 4 retirements in this race for anybody who's just joined us, that being the 2 Viper racing cars of both Yuri Gabriel and Bartus Bracky, both for separate reasons, and the other 2 being Thomas Cassidy, who also retired on lap 1, and Toby Holloway, who retired thanks to a puncture. So as Gomez now has the trouble himself trying to lap Larosa, but it looks like that battle for P3 is starting to get a little bit close now, because Thompson is not that far behind now from De Barros, so we now have a battle for P3 brewing on our hands now. Then Thompson looks at an opportunity to try and get both Ferraris onto the podium here, Blake.
Yes indeed, Joe. The Ferraris are actually doing pretty well here. I expect them to be like around midfield, but no, the Ferraris were actually doing pretty okay here. So I think Thompson and Gonzalez could take a really good result here, as Thompson is really catching De Barros through the banking. So looks like Ferrari's got the fastest car through the high-speed corners, I think, Joe.
Yeah, indeed. Whether that is compared, because just to point out as well, unlike in real life, Penske actually use Honda in this series, unlike in real life where they use Chevy. But I don't know what the pace is like between the Honda and the Ferrari down the straight, but we'll have to wait and see that. Meantime, Soper, looks like on this stint, as we were talking about earlier, because he's been overtaken by both Lucien and Volker, seems to be struggling on this stint, because now Volker's teammate, Jordan Howell, is now trying to attack him for 14th position. As meantime, Kloss is now trying to lap Francesca Larosa, which he has just been able to do just about now then. As 0.4 seconds for the gap between De Barros and Thompson right now, as Peter continues to increase the lead at the front of the field, as he'll soon be starting lap 35 of 60 here at Indianapolis. Soper now onto the inside. In fact, no, Jordan Howell, unseen by the cameras, has now just overtaken Soper, so over to P14 goes Jordan Howell there. Looked like Soper was trying to repass him there, but it wasn't going to work out. Meanwhile, what's going on in that battle for third? There we go. Thompson, I think, is a little bit more closer to De Barros than he was on the previous lap. He's not going to go for it for the banking, so he's actually going to play it smart now then. Both of them with Shell sponsorship on their car now then. Thompson now looking to the inside. This is his best chance he's had on De Barros as they go side by side going into the first corner. Thompson is pitting this lap, in fact, so the second round of pit stops are getting underway a lot earlier than what I was expecting. Thompson on the inside, nearly close to contact there, and that might have cost Thompson trying to get by there. Blake, I don't know what Thompson was thinking there.
Thompson trying to send this down the inside, but he didn't just commit it to it, and he just didn't commit it to it, and he lost a lot of time. That's what happened.
Oh, indeed. As mentioned, though, but the second round of pit stops are beginning this lap. Thompson is coming into the pits this lap, so he might want to try and jump the Barros if he can't get by him on the racetrack, and he's not close enough to get him into that corner. So, yeah, I think Thompson will want to try and jump him in the pits if he can, because the Barros is not pitting this lap. He's staying out a little bit longer than what Thompson is. Peter crossed the line to start lap 36 of 60 now then. He's now nearly 19 seconds ahead of Robino Gonzalez, who, as mentioned earlier, having a pretty lonely race in second place at the moment. But as mentioned, Thompson is coming into the pits this lap to make his second stop of the race. And just keep an eye on the bottom left of your screen when he comes into the pits. In fact, we won't, because we've cut to him, because Thompson is now into the pits. So the second round of pit stops have officially begun. Thompson in for his second pit stop of the day, and he's going to be the only one pitting, so he shouldn't have any traffic problems. As I say that, there's more mechanics coming out just in front there. So luckily for him, it's not a Chip Ganassi like we saw with Gonzalez a little bit earlier on. But let's see how quick the stop will be then for Sam Thompson. And it is a 9.4 second stop, so taking on a lot of fuel. That will be his final pit stop of the day, I would imagine, as Florian Volker is coming to the pits this lap, as is the Meyer Shank racing car there, TJ Papero, coming into the pits this lap as well. So a few cars coming in this lap, but luckily for Thompson, he didn't get held up. And important for him now is to get the hammer down, Blake, and try and jump Bruno. Speaking of which, Bruno is pitting this lap, in fact, so he's only going to have one lap to try and get the hammer down with fresher tyres.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, Joe. I think it's gonna be a massive problem for the Ferrari driver trying to navigate, trying to make sure that Bruno De Barros makes a mistake somewhere. But at the moment, I think the Ferrari driver could jump him, or I will not jump him, because if he doesn't jump him, well, this will be a massive problem for the Ferrari driver.
But meantime, Bruno De Barros is now into the pits now then for the Penske team, and it's going to be an important pit stop for him if he wants to stay out in front of Sam Thompson, because Thompson will be looking to jump him if he can now then, as Volker rejoins in 16th. But let's see how quick the stop is then for the Team Penske mechanics. Obviously disguised as Ferrari for some reason, but there we are. 9.3 seconds, so only just only 1/10 quicker than Sam Thompson's pit stop. So I think it's going to be pretty close. Here is Sam Thompson then. We're riding on board with him as he comes around the banking. Bruno De Barros just still needs to negotiate that little chicane before he can get out of the pit lane, which he has done now. So he's now back onto racing speed. But where is Thompson as he now comes out the pit lane? As he stayed out in front of Thompson, or as Thompson jumps in, there's Thompson on the left-hand side there. It's going to be close, and De Barros just stays in front. So Thompson was unable to jump him there. So the battle resumes on track, Blake.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I think Ferrari should have got a little bit more quicker on the pit stop, but yeah, that's a little bit blunderous from Ferrari, I got to admit.
Oh, indeed. So, yeah, that was pretty close, but Thompson is now going to have to try and get him on the track. But, of course, the Barros will have one lap fresher tyres compared to only just a one, but just a little bit more fresher tyres than what Robino Gonzalez has. As Gomez, meanwhile, continues to stay out and will still continue to pelt around. He's not pitting just yet now then, as we're now into the second stage of pit stops, as Peter now negotiating traffic. He's now lapping both Soper and Howell. Howell just in front of him now then, instead of Peter just lapping Soper there through into the section of corners, as the gap is nearly 21 seconds now between Peter and Gonzalez, as now they make their way through the section of corners now then, before making their way into the final few corners. And so far, we're not seeing anybody pitting this lap there, as we continue to look now at Gabriel Gomez. And here is Zolgo, who's getting it a little bit wrong there. A bit of a lock-up there for Balint Zolgo, as he's pushing hard, in fact, to try and gain Joe Pedro Kirby in front, and that won't have done his tyres any good whatsoever. And he'll want to try and get him in two, because as you can see, it was 1.9 seconds, but thanks to that lockup, it's now up to 2.1 seconds. So Zolga pushing hard potentially to try and see if he can jump him in the pits, perhaps. As Kloss, meanwhile, for Penske, has just come into the pits, and Bartus Kloss is now in, and his second pit stop is now underway, and Gomez again continuing to pout around at this point in time, as we've got a bit of a battle for 17th going on here, Blake.
Yes, between Francesca Larosa and TJ, but these two are trying to fight for basically nothing, but we're trying to do everything just to get that one position. Anyways.
Yes, indeed, as one of the Collins is now coming to the pits, as meanwhile Thompson is not close enough to get to Barros that time, but it looks like De Barros may have got a bit of a gap. Muka now into the pits, as Kloss is now coming out the pit lane. He should still rejoin behind both De Barros and Thompson, and yes, he will do. Muka being served there in his pit stop, as now Gomez will now make his way through in towards these hairpins now, then the section of hairpins. As now Igor Peter, the race leader, has just come into the pits now then. So the race leader, Igor Peter, in for his second and final pit stop of the day. I think Gonzalez will briefly take the lead, judging from the gap there, but he will have to hand it back when he pits. But it's just been the perfect race for Peter at the moment, hasn't it, Blake?
Yeah, indeed. So Peter could very well win the race if his car decides to be nice to him. But at the moment, takes the lead after almost since lap 1. Oh, yeah.
That was just Zorback there trying to lap the manner there of Larosa, and that might give TJ Papero a chance to try and get to Larosa, but he's not close enough. In fact, it looks like there that Larosa was trying to unlap himself, and that might put him prey to TJ Papero, but again, not close enough. Larosa again trying to unlap himself on Nicholas Zorback at the moment, and it looks like he's going to actually get it done into the first corner, which he does, or will Zorback hang it around the outside to relap him then? Nope, and nearly losing his front wing there in the process, so Zorback is not going to be very happy about that one, Blake.
Yes, indeed. Zorback will be a little bit more frustrated than he was trying to overtake Zachary.
Oh, Thompson's passed De Barros! Thompson has passed De Barros and seen by the camera. He passed him into the first corner. There it is. So it took him a while, but Thompson has finally got the move done on De Barros, Blake.
Yeah, indeed. The Ferrari. Yes, indeed. The Ferrari. The Ferrari was managing his tyres whilst De Barros was trying to pull away from the rest of the field. But yes, indeed. And Franco Larosa. Oh dear. Larosa almost hits TJ, I think.
Gomez, meanwhile, into the pits as he was actually letting Zorback relap him there, as Peter puts a lap there on Florian Volker. But Gomez now into the pits for Andretti, as a few more cars just finishing their pit stops there. Gonzalez is still going to continue around for a little bit longer, and I guess he's got nothing really to lose, really, because he was pretty much racing on his own in second place. But meantime, Kirby looks like he's going to have to do a bit of defending, because Zolga is all over the backside of him now. Then Zolga has actually caught him up, and probably doesn't even need to wait for the pits, as we mentioned earlier, as now they make their way through the banking. Can Zolga potentially try and get close enough to Kirby to try and make a move into the first corner? I don't think he's close enough this time by, but maybe on the next lap, unless one of them is pitting. Zolga is not pitting this lap. He's going to continue around for a little bit more. But anyway, Peter now trying to lap Kim Sung-min just in front there, as Volker will try to get onto the back of Min if he can. But then again, Min still has to pit, so Volker doesn't have to worry too much, because Volker is already pitted in this race. As meanwhile, Gomez rejoins in 6th place, meanwhile, after his pit stop. In fact, he's actually got ahead of both Thompson and De Barros, in fact. I've just realised this. So Gomez has actually jumped the pair of them. So Gomez is looking at a potential P3 here, Blake.
Yes, indeed. Looks like he made the right call at the right time, Gomez. Zorba is trying to get past JP Kirby. That's the best way I'm going to call him. Because otherwise, he prefers people to call him JP anyway, so you're kind of right there. So anyway, as speaking of JP Kirby, he's actually coming into the pits this lap, so it looks like Zorga will have a bit of time to try and see if he can jump him, but he's got Gomez behind him, and Gomez needs to get by him quickly, because otherwise he'll have both Thompson
and De Barros all over the back of him. And thanks to that pit lane there, it looks like Gomez might make it a little bit easy through into the banking, or will he? Because looks like Zorga's just going to hang it for the moment. Kirby now into the pits, and all this is doing is allowing Thompson and De Barros to get back onto the prowl of him at the moment in this battle for what will be third place once the people in front pit, of course. Gonzalez still hasn't pitted just yet, but we should imagine him to pit quite soon, which will give the lead back to Igor Peter as now Volker tries to overtake Kim Sung Min, as Min, of course, is still yet to pit in this stint. As Kirby, meanwhile, where is he going to emerge? I'm not 100% sure. As we now look at Gomez, who's all over the back of Zog, getting stuck behind. And look at this, Thompson and De Barros are now starting to close back into him. So Gomez is not going to be a very happy bunny at the moment, is he, Blake?
Yeah, that is the worst term. I think we're going to call him, like, I think Gomez will not be a happy cat, to be honest. He'll just be shouting in the cockpit. Can you get this guy out of the way, please? I bet he will not be happy.
While Peter has just set the fastest lap of the race, so he's looking at the bonus point at the moment for the fastest lap of the race. He can keep this up at 1 minute 11.7, I think that said. So a very quick lap there for Igor Peter at the moment. I'll be very interested to see what these lap times are like compared to what they were back in 2007, which was the last time the top class raced around Indianapolis. It'll be interesting to see when I do the editing for the wiki later. But Gomez not having a good run there because, again, Zolga holding him up, and it's bringing Thompson a bit more closer here. So Thompson could still get a double podium for Ferrari if he can keep this up at the moment, but Gomez again not very happy. But luckily for him, Zolga is finally pitting this lap. But I guess in a way, Kirby can sort of thank Gomez in a way that Zolga is having to fend off a little bit, because it will allow him to potentially try and stay ahead of him once Zolga comes into the pits, Blake.
Indeed, but Gomez will be absolutely seething at that one, and also it's going to be even more misery for Gomez, because there's some back markers ahead of him.
More back markers as well. Larosa and Papero is actually unseen by the cameras. TJ Papero has actually finally got past on Francesca Larosa, as both Zolga and Gomez get by. As Gonzalez finally into the pits for his final stop, handing the lead back to Igor Peter. So Gonzalez in for his second and final stop. Valent Zorga will also be peeling off into the pits, and it looks like as well that a bit of traffic might have helped Gomez a little bit, because Thompson and De Barros are now stuck behind Francesca Larosa as a result. And finally, to get out of the way, as Valent Zorga finally comes into the pits. But it looks like Gomez getting held up by Zorga has actually given Thompson some extra traction here. Look at the speed he's got. Can he potentially get Gomez again into the first corner? Look at De Barros as well. De Barros fancy each other. He could be 3 wide here going into the first corner, and it will be 3 wide. As it goes side by side, can De Barros make a double overtake? No, he can't, but Thompson gets by on Gomez, so Thompson retakes the place from Gomez, and now De Barros wants a piece of the action. But yeah, Thompson now looking at, once again, a double podium for Ferrari, as Gonzalez rejoins in third position, will be second once whoever it is in second place comes into the pit. Not sure who it is, though.
It could be Zorback.
Yeah, Zorback. So once Zorback comes into the pit. But again, Gomez not giving up on Thompson here. So this battle for what will be the final podium place resumes.
Yeah, indeed. De Barros lost a little bit there, and also Gomez trying to sell one down the inside, and it's no avail. And JP's up into the points.
Yes, indeed. As an now made way through the sequence of hairpins now then. And you can see the mirrors full of Bruno De Barros there, as you can see from the onboard camera of Gabriel Gomez. Howell, meanwhile, is just coming to the pits, meanwhile, as Volker gets back in front of him there. Volker, of course, trying to re-chase down Alex-Eric Lucien like he did in the previous stand. As Gomez again trying to retake Thompson into the banking. Can he get the move done? As Zorback is now finally into the pits for BMW Pyramid, as now Gomez had to back off there because he wasn't able to get the move done on Thompson. It looks like De Barros is actually falling back a little bit, in fact, so maybe he's not having the pace as much as we expect, as Thompson's just going to fend off from Gomez going into the first corner there. As Larosa, who's been a pain in the backside when it comes to traffic, is now finally coming to the pits, so a little bit of breathing space for the guys around. Fitzwater also into the pits as well, so both Nicholas Zorback and Fitzwater making their final pit stops on lap 45 of the race. Zorback rejoins in 7th place, and in fact he was battling with Zolga, wasn't he, earlier on? So no, he wasn't, that was somebody else. In fact, did Zolga get in front of Kirby? That's what I want to know, because they were battling earlier. But meantime, we'll have a look in a little bit, because Gomez again trying to attack Thompson into the chicane there, as they're still trying to negotiate traffic, and all this is doing to allowing De Barros to get back in this scrap for 3rd position, as they're now trying to lap TJ Papero in the Maya Shank Racing car now then. They will now make their way through into the second last corner. Thompson tried to lap him there. I'm not sure if that's particularly wise there for Thompson, because Gomez is going to try and follow through as well and give himself some slipstream. De Barros, though, was unfortunately not able to get by on TJ Papera there, but Gomez on the inside of Thompson through the banking. But again, Thompson just able to fend off for the moment as they make their way down the straight. De Barros. Kloss has got himself involved as well, and now he could find himself in this fight for third as well, because he's caught up into all of this as a result of all this traffic. It's Barros trying to get a run on Gomez in the first corner, but Gomez fends off the inside going into turn 1 there, and that's giving Thompson a little bit of breathing space at the moment. But now Kloss finds himself in this fight for the final podium place, Blake.
Indeed, Kloss has been definitely been under the radar for the entire race, and now he's just just getting the what's that one? The word? Just getting the trenches out, and that's the best. Okay, that's just the best word I can think of on the top of my head. Just getting the trenches out.
After this battle for third, and again Thompson fending off from Gomez. Looks like De Barros might have to fend off from Kloss in a bit, because he's losing a bit of ground to third and fourth at the moment. Through into the sequence of hairpins we will now go now on the racetrack. They're filling the car through these section of corners now then, and yeah, the two Penske's looking like they're going to fight for 5th place now then. As now we get into this battle for third again. Gomez trying to line up Thompson for a pass through into the banking now then, as he's going to look to the inside as Kloss looks to the inside of De Barros. Just behind now then as he goes side by side through the banking again. Thompson fends off from Gomez now then, as Kloss has to back up a little bit from De Barros. As a result, neither of them have been able to get each other going through these first sections of corners. And Gonzalez again just running a very lonely race in second place at the moment, as Gonzalez makes his way through these section of corners, as he's nearly 28 seconds off the back of Peter, who, as long as he doesn't have any problems, looks like the victory is going to go away to the Brazilian. But still, 13 and a bit laps to go. Anything could still happen, as there's a little bit of understeer there from Jordan Howe going into these section of corners now, then these sequence of hairpins here at this GP layout of Indianapolis. And, well, so far, I think it's fair to say, Blake, this has been a very good opening race of the season.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, the racing in ChampCar is pretty good, but the only thing we're missing is about for the lead. I mean, it's the first race of the season. You can't really blame the cars already. I mean, it's just the first race of this new series, so you can't have a dig at it. So okay. Anyways.
Yes, indeed. But anyway, here comes these battles again now. Then Gomez is actually going to wait to the straight this time. He's going to be a bit patient. Unlike, unlike Kloss behind. In fact, can Kloss get the move done already going into the banking? No, he can't. He's going to wait for the straight. But Gomez now onto the inside of Thompson. They go side by side going into the first corner. But Gomez trying to tuck back into the position. Going to flick back to the inside. Can he get later on the brakes? No, he can't. You would think maybe, because I'm trying to think what engine Andretti is running in this series. I'll just quickly double check. They are running the Chevy engine. It seems that the Ferrari might have a bit of an edge on the Chevy engine down the straight, Blake. Unless it may be the way the car's set up, I'm not sure.
I think it's just most likely the Ferrari engine itself that it's very quick on the straights, because the Ferraris are made for the circuit compared to the other cars, to be honest, because they're really quick on the straights compared to the other well-established teams. When here comes Gomez trying to someone down the inside, but I mean, if you're perfectly honest, if it's someone down the inside, it could be either a good move or a death wish, to be honest.
I haven't really seen one overtaking move without a mistake going into that. As meantime, unseen by the camera, Zolga has finally passed Kirby. So Kirby actually stayed in front during the pit stops, but Zolga has now finally got the move done on Kirby. And he's made himself back up into 9th position. Now, back to this battle for 3rd position as we're getting into the closing stages of this first ever World Champ Car race. Gomez again, not going for the banking. He's going to wait for the straight, maybe realising that the Chevy may have a bit of a weakness compared to the Ferrari. Down the straight, he flicks it to the inside. Looks like De Barros has got a bit of a gap between himself and teammate Kloss for the meantime. Side by side go the pair of them now then. Can Gomez finally get the position off of Thompson down the inside? No, again. Thompson leaving his braking late, and so far doing a good job fending off Gomez at this point in time.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, Joe. Look, the Ferraris are definitely quick on the straights compared to the Penske's.
Yes, indeed. And so far, Gomez knows the podium is there, but so far Thompson trying to ensure that both Ferraris actually get a double podium, and that would possibly be very, very good news for them at this point in time, because, well, at the moment it looks like, well, so far, I've only just realised this, the top 4 actually consisted of just Andretti's and Ferraris at the moment, And I think Andretti would take the early lead in the team's championship if it stays like this, especially with Igor Peters' pole and fastest lap point, especially the fastest lap point he currently holds. But Ferrari will not be too far behind at this point in time, and then he would be followed by Penske at the moment, who currently lie in 5th and 6th. So that's how it would look so far in the early part of the team's championship. But meantime, Gomez probably scrapping the plan he had the previous 2 laps, going to go for it on the banking again as they continue to try and go side by side. But again, Thompson just having a little bit more traction. Kloss, though, I think he's a bit closer to De Barros than what he has been previously. He might be his best chance to try and get his teammate into the first corner. And De Barros is not thinking about defending until now, leaving it a bit late. But Kloss trying to go late on the brakes. He might have just tricked De Barros there as they're going to continue side by side through turn 2. But De Barros just able to fend off for the moment and holds on to that 5th position. But again, no changes in this 3rd to 5th, this 3rd to 6th part of the race.
Yes, indeed. Like I said, for the first time today, you need to be a little bit more patient around this track if you want to overtake, because probably some drivers are being very aggressive if they want to overtake, like right now. But if you need to be a little bit more calm to overtake, because the only like realistic overtaking spot is at turn 1, but some drivers are trying to go for the move out the banking. So I mean, you can't. I don't know what to say.
Anyway, meantime, we're back to this battle for 3rd. Is Gomez going to go for the banking again, or is he going to go back to his previous plan, which is just wait until the straight? Looks like he's going to go for the banking again. The Alfa Romeo test driver looking to the inside of Sam Thompson now then, and Thompson just going to hold on for the moment as they make their way down the pit straight. Meantime, Kloss going to the inside of De Barros pretty early on behind Gomez. Not close enough for Thompson, but Kloss is on De Barros as the 2 Penskes go side by side going into the first corner. But it looks like De Barros might have the edge as Kloss tries to outbrake him, but De Barros just had the edge on Kloss that time by. So again, De Barros just not letting his teammate go. Clearly, there's no team orders at Penske, is there, Blake?
Yeah, indeed, Penske try to looks like there's no action being taken, but to be honest, it's the first race of the season. There is no team orders at the moment because right now it's just let them race.
Oh, indeed. As meantime, as Peter's just started lap 52 of 60, so including this lap, 9 laps to go in this first ever World Champ Car race, and we've still got this big battle for the final podium place still brewing at this point as they make their way through into the sequence of hairpins now then, as they will now make their way towards the final 3 corners now then. Into the second to last corner will go Gabriel Gomez, and it looks like he's going to try again with that banking now then. The Chevy-powered Andretti versus the Ferrari-powered, well, Ferrari, as they now go side by side, going into the final banking. And again, the Ferrari of Thompson just holds on for the moment. And again, too much of a gap between him and Thompson. And it seems the same as can be said as well for the 2 Penske drivers. As meanwhile, just looking down the rest of the order at the moment, it's 3.1 seconds between Mutka and Zolga. I'm not sure if Zolga is going to be able to gain that much on Mutka, but we will see, of course, in the closing stages of this race. As Fitzwater looks like he's just going to miss out on points, and it looks like Chip Ganassi are only going to get 1 point out of this at the moment, Blake.
Yeah, indeed, they had really good. I mean, the qualifying pace was really good, whilst the race pace just kind of fell off.
Yeah, indeed. Meantime, look at this. Lucien, speaking of Chip Ganassi, has actually caught up to Zachary Fitzwater on this stint. So the French rookie, having a brilliant outing so far in his debut here for Peugeot Sport, is now looking to the inside of Fitzwater and could even get P11 here as they go side by side. He might have already gone him down the straight here. And you know what? Yes, he has. Up into P11 goes to the French rookie. He's having a brilliant rookie race, it's fair to say, Blake.
Yes, he is. He's been making up positions. He's just making up positions. He's trying to make things dead calm compared to the other drivers who are aggressive. Gomez. I mean, to be honest, he drove an absolute brilliant race despite the circumstances that he is in because the Peugeot team only has 1 car left.
Also again trying to have a go at De Barros, but again De Barros leaving his braking a little bit late there, going into the first few corners there, as they will now make their way through into turn 4 and then into turn 5. We will now go as Gomez looks like he's a little bit more patient than what we saw with Zorback a little bit earlier on, but you can imagine there's probably some frustration in the Brazilian.
Yeah, one word, frustrated, very frustrated.
There indeed is now. He's going to try again into the corner. As mentioned earlier, we've only seen 1 clean overtake round here that hasn't involved a lockup or anything. And, well, it's been the only one so far because, again, Gomez Just can't find a way through on Thompson as Zorback just laps. I think that was the manner there of Kim Sung-min that he's just got by on there. We've got an engine failure for TJ Papero. That's the second engine failure we've seen. And it's the Honda-powered Maya Shank that's pulled off to the side. And it is an engine failure. No water leak or oil leak. So, yeah. I don't know if he'll be classified with that. I don't think he will. I'll do double check to see if he's done 90% of the race distance. Hang on a minute. 94 divided by 60. And yes, he actually has done exactly 90%. In fact, he's a lap down, isn't he? So I think he's just missed out. So I don't think he's going to get classified, is he? So he was a lap down, unfortunately. So, unfortunately, just misses out on being classified there. So TJ Papero out of the race, and we're down to 17 runners, Blake.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. This might be a concern for the Honda-powered cars, especially the Penske's.
Yes, indeed. So Papero out of the race as we now continue this scrap for third place as we have just 6 and a bit laps to go. Lap 54 of 60 here at the GP layout of Indianapolis. An impressive first ever outing for World Champ Car. It's culminated with a great scrap for the final podium place as Gomez again tries to have a look into the corner. Luckily the yellow flags are gone now then as they've cleared Papero's car pretty quickly there, so no need to worry about a potential time penalty for an overtake under yellow flags there, so no worries there. Coming out of the hairpin now then will go Gomez as he's now trying to put the pressure on Sam Thompson now then as they will now make their way towards the banking now then. In the second to last corner we will now go as they will now make their way towards the banking. Gomez again trying to have a look through into the banking. Can he get the move done this time through into the banking again? Same story. Thompson holds on, just get to run out of that final turn to hold on for the moment. As the two Penske's continue to crack for fifth. Can Kloss this time get a hold of De Barros? And I don't know what, they both have the same car of course, but you would imagine that maybe De Barros has just let the car a little bit better, but Kloss trying to go later on the brakes there. But again, De Barros just holds on for the moment. And as I was saying there before that happened, looks like De Barros may have set up pretty well for the straights compared to Kloss, Blake.
Yes, Kloss is actually catching De Barros very rapidly in the corners compared to De Barros's top straight line speed.
Oh, indeed. So that's pretty much that really, as they now make their way through these sectional corners. As we now look at Gabriel Gomez again as he tries to make a move on Sam Thompson and oh, look up for Gomez! Pushing a bit too hard, and that's not going to do his tyres any good, and will give Thompson a little bit of breathing space as a result. Maybe pushing a bit too hard there, Blake.
Yeah, he pushed a little bit too hard, and he just locked up the tyres. I mean, he got a little bit frustrated and just slammed the brakes and just unlocked the tyres up. So that's things that's that's definitely not on by Gomez. And there's Kloss is getting really close to Bruno De Barros there. So Kloss is definitely half the pace compared to Bruno De Barros' straight line speed.
Yes, indeed, and again, De Barros, as mentioned earlier, there's clearly no team orders at Penske, but De Barros making sure that Kloss doesn't try and go for a move into turn number 1 there by defending the inside. But Thompson having a bit of breathing space, but it looks like Gomez is starting to gain back as Peter laps JP Kirby. Just shows how dominant he's been in this race because he's now passed the guy who's currently in the final points place. 4 laps to go in this first ever World Champ Car race, and we've still got a big battle for third position as Gomez starts to reel Thompson back in after his little lock up there as Kloss tries to have a go at De Barros into here, but De Barros covering the inside going into turn number 7 there. As now the battle for third resumes, Blake.
Yeah, yes indeed. Gomez caught up very quickly to Thompson, but Thompson is really good at defending at the moment. So I think Thompson will just be fighting for his life to just get as many points for Ferrari as he can.
As Gomez again trying to go for the banking, but again it just isn't going to work there. And again Kloss trying to do the same thing, but De Barros just going to fend off as they make their way down the pit straight. But I would argue that Kloss is a little bit closer to De Barros than what Gomez is going into turn 1. But even so, Kloss not close enough even to go for an overtake. And De Barros, I don't think he even needs to go for a defensive move there. Because, oh, he's locked up there. That was nearly costly there for De Barros, but luckily had that one covered. But imagine if he lost the position there, he would have been kicking himself in the cockpit there, Blake.
Yeah, he would have been very will be just be angry with himself because I almost said the P word there because that's how Bruno De Barros would have felt in the cockpit if he actually made that mistake.
He did indeed, as Gomez trying to have a go into turn 7, but again, same story. Thompson covering him off perfectly as he's trying everything he can to ensure that both Ferraris get on the podium in this first ever World Champ Car race, with Gonzalez, as long as he has no issues, looking settled for second place just in front. But anyway, now going around these section of corners, oh, it looks like Thompson's made a little bit of an error there. Could Gomez pounce on that? He looked like he bounced off the curb a little bit too much there. Can Gomez try and get him this time by? Has he got the run? Going into the banking. Side by side they will go. Again, Thompson covers him off. And, well, luckily, he was very lucky that Gomez didn't punish him there for that mistake. As now we look at Kloss, who's trying to get a hold of De Barros, but again it looks like De Barros has got him covered off, and there's not that much time left, so if they're going to make moves, Blake, they've got to make these moves now.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, indeed. They're losing loads of time to third place. That's Chloe's just overtakes Toby Holloway back mark of Francesca Larosa.
So it looks like no points are going away to the 5-time top class champion. We're on the penultimate lap of the race now then, as Igor Peter has just started lap 59 of 60 here at Indianapolis, as again this battle for third continues, and it looks like it is just going to be those two, because the Penske's have just fell away a bit too much in this race to go for third place. They'll need to hope if one of them gets on the podium that these two end up in some kind of accident or something in order for one of the Penske's to get onto the podium here today. But anyway, as Gomez now then tries to put Thompson on any form of pressure. Thompson doesn't make that same mistake that we saw on the previous lap where he bounced off the curb a little bit too much there, as it's 31.5 seconds between Peter and Gonzalez. Just shows how quick Peter has been today, as Gomez tries to have a go on the banking, but again Thompson just going to hold on for the moment. And as same goes for Kloss, they seem to be a little bit impatient right now then, as they realise they've not got that much time left to go for an overtake, as they now make their way through these first few corners. As meantime, here comes Igor Peter, who's just putting a lap on Balint Zolga there. And Peter is going to be starting his final lap very soon, as he just makes his way through into the banking. And it's just been a brilliant race for him, hasn't it, Blake?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Peter almost led from start to finish, but except for that little hindrance from on the first couple lap that Gonzalez had. But yeah, I got Peter's definitely going to win the race. Let's check his fuel. Has he got enough fuel to go to the end? Or...
I think he will. I don't think we've got to worry too much about that, Blake. I know Yuri too well to ensure that doesn't become the case. But anyway, Peter just been the brilliant and dominant race for the Brazilian driver. Of course, as you mentioned earlier, lost the lead at the start of the race after Gonzalez kind of tricked him into the first corner, but he got the lead back, and you could say got a little bit lucky to get the lead back, because of course Gonzalez made that mistake going into this particular corner we're coming up to now. But since then he just pulled away and just never looked back, and well, Igor Peter is looking good to become the first ever winner of World Champ Car. If he can just get this car around the final few corners, the victory will be for the Brazilian, as he now makes his way through the section of corners for the 60th and final time now then. Around the second to last corner, looks like Thompson and De Barros are just going to hold on to their positions just about. But Peter, it's just been the perfect opening weekend as he rounds the final corner, and it is going to be Igor Peter who is going to become the first ever World Champ Car winner as he wins around the GP layout of Indianapolis. Congratulations to him, and a brilliant dominant drive from the Halfords Andretti man. A brilliant race for him indeed, as Kirby picks up the final points place in 10th. 11th place going the way to Alex-Eric Lucien. A brilliant rookie race for him indeed, and I'm pretty sure, given the pace the Peugeot showed here, he'll be pretty happy with that one. Only just missing out on the points, but Alex-Eric Lucien, a brilliant rookie race. Maybe someone to keep an eye out in the future in the OC. Fitzwater, not the best race for him in 12th. Gonzalez picks up second, a brilliant race for him, and a podium for him, probably a redemption for him as he's looking to redeem himself after a tricky 2020 season. Larosa 17th, 14th for Jordan Howe. It's only 13th and 14th for the McLarens, 15th for Frederick Soper. In the end, Thompson is just going to hold off Gomez to take the final podium spot in third. So Thompson makes it a double podium for Ferrari. Gomez in fourth. De Barros is just going to hold on for fifth. Kloss in sixth, fifth and sixth for the two Penske drivers. Zorback, a brilliant race for him in the BMW. He's going to cross the line in 7th, and redemption for him after what had been a tricky few seasons in GP2 for him. P7 goes the way of the German. Simon Mutka, brilliant race for him considering where he qualified outside the top 10. He's going to pick up 3 points for Carlin. Brilliant race for him. P8 going the way of Simon Mutka. P16 for the rookie Kim Sung-min in the manner. And that's that then. Igor Peter, the first ever World Champ Car winner in GP4 OC. Fully deserved indeed, and who knows, maybe an early title contender in this series. So we might as well have a look at the full race results then, and you can do the second part, Blake, when I read the first part. So Igor Peter winning the race, from Robino Gonzalez in second, Sam Thompson in third with Gabriel Gomez fourth, Bruno De Barros in fifth with teammate Bartus Bracky in sixth, Nicholas Zorback seventh, Simon Mutke in eighth with Balint Zolga ninth, JP Kirby completing the points in 10th with Alex Eric Lucian just missing out in 11th, and you can do the rest, Blake.
So in P12 we got Zachary Fitzwater, P13 we got Florian Volker, P14 we got Jordan Howell, P15 is Zorback, P16 is Kim Sun Min, P17 is Francesca Larosa, but the DNS are TG, Yuri Gabriel, Toby Holloway, Bracky, and Thomas Cassidy on lap 1.
And the fastest lap, no surprise, going to Igor Peter. So he gets the bonus point for the fastest lap of the race. So he gets the full 27 points because, of course, he got pole position as well. So full 27 points going the way to Igor Peter. And they will also go towards the team's championship as well as we look through the rest of the fastest lap order. And, well, that has been it then for the first ever World Champ Car race. What did you make of it overall, Blake?
I think he produces really good racing, ChampCar at the moment. I can't wait for Kota next time out because these cars can easily follow each other. They can easily overtake each other, and hopefully there will be more exciting races in the future.
Yes, indeed. Well, the next World Champ Car race, as Blake will mention, will be in 3 weeks' time due to Yuri being on his 2-week vacation, and that will be on the 26th of June at the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, the second of 5 races in the USA. And if this race is anything to go by, we should be looking at a very exciting race over at COTA as well. But that has been it then, guys. I hope you have enjoyed it. Of course, there's no top class for the next 2 weeks due to Yuri being on vacation. So the next stream that will be live on this YouTube channel will be the DTM preseason test, which will be on Friday and Saturday. Friday being at Fuji Speedway and Saturday being at the Nürburgring. So do look forward to that. The highlights, I think I will bring them out tomorrow because I've only just received the commentary for George. So look out for the newly revamped highlights tomorrow. But that has been it then, guys. I hope you have enjoyed it. So thank you very much for watching. I've been JW97. He's been Blake Moore. And we will see you next time for the next round of the World Champ Car Series. Till then, take care.